Welcome back, everyone, to episode 20 of Lesser Known Operators, our second big milestone for the podcast, the first being the first episode. And it is fitting that today's guest is the Chuck Ritter, Green Beret educator, student, world traveler, nerd, trying to make a positive impact in the world. Chuck needs no introduction, but I will give him a little bit of one. Sergeant Major, third group, 3 Valorous Awards to include a Silver Star and a Bronze Star, and 3 Purple Hearts. He has been advising me along the way behind the scenes, and I do appreciate that very much. Thank you, Chuck, for being there. And thanks to everybody who's been listening to the show, liking, subscribing, commenting, following along the way. I do appreciate you guys very much. Thank you guys for listening, and enjoy the show. Chuck Ritter, thanks for coming on Lesser Known Operators.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Absolutely, man. I become a cold messaging machine in my PR department trying to find guests. So I scroll Instagram for a couple hours a day looking for profiles that look soft related, and then I have to investigate a little further. And then I send them a message like, "Hey, yeah, you don't know me, but will you please come on my show?" So I appreciate you taking the time to sit with me today. So you're pretty easy to look up, do some research on. I do a minimal research on my guests before they come on and everything. You've been everywhere, done everything, quite the career in Special Forces. I had a guest on, episode got posted earlier this week, talking about resilience, right? And we always, resilience, the ability to bounce back. But the way we do things in the military is all these risk assessments and how to take care of, mitigate things left of the boom, right? With all the shit you've been through and all the stuff you've done, how have you been able to be resilient left of the boom with everything you've been through?
So this is an interesting question because I feel like I really screwed that up in the beginning. I was severely wounded in 2008. It took 4 years to recover from that. And at the time, we didn't have what became the Thor 3 programs, which is when they brought in all of our sports psychs, our physical therapists, our trainers, right, and an actual facility to do some training. So, I mean, obviously, going through hard military training, you got some resiliency, but I think the mindset at that point in time was I went with the whole like grit, like you got to always wake up and do hard shit. Yeah, well, that's not real when it comes to resiliency. So I feel like I had to learn the hard way I don't think it would have taken 4 years if I would have been a little bit smarter with actually doing intelligent, intentional things like left of boom. And that way, when something happens, you're already prepped for it and then you're smart on the after, right? So I think that I've been able to be more resilient later through some injuries because of just being smarter. It's not that I'm a harder individual. I actually have pretty weak genes. I had a bunch of hernias when I was like 2 years old or 3 years old. I have lung issues. I feel like I have to train harder than most people to be in shape. So I just have to be smarter in what I do. Like right now, I'm training for a 50-mile race, and I'm going to take every services physical fitness test in December. And I just had my 34th surgery, right? So it's just being smarter about your training up front and prepping yourself and making sure that, like, if I go back in time right now, I would have added more intentional mobility and stability work into all my workouts. Like right now, when I do my afternoon workouts, like if I do push-ups or bench press or whatever it is, in between the next thing I'm doing some type of mobility and stability. When I wake up in the morning, I do 10 to 15 minutes of mobility, stability, or some kind of like check in, and I make sure I do it throughout the day. If I could go back in time, I would have definitely started doing that. But that's like physical resiliency. And then the middle part is really intentionally training your mind and doing things that are proven that you can do because your mind is no different than your body. You can train it to do anything. You can train yourself to actively like regulate your heart rate variability if you train for it. You can't really truly control your emotions, but you can train your body to like, okay, this is how I feel. I know I'm about to get stressed out here. This is what I'm going to do. And I've done these things over and over so much that now I've given my body basically these kill switches that when I do these things, it's going to react in these ways. So that's a very long answer to your question. But if you want to get into some more specifics on that, I can get super nerdy, right? Because one of the things I do is deal with a lot of professionals in that realm.
We and you say, grit it out, be the tough guy. That's generally what, especially in the hallway, right? In the team, is going to
Mm-hmm.
happen because the guys won't take the time to even think about letting the rest of the team down or saying no when Sergeant Major says, "Hey, I need a guy to do this really difficult thing." Oh, well, my leg's broken, but I can probably get through it. Do you, what kind of detriment do you think that causes to guys later when they get towards time to retirement and they haven't documented anything now, and they're getting, because you see that guys will get and they don't have anything, they've never gone to the doctor, and they're fucked up and they don't know how to get out of the military. Is that a just a, it's got to be still a common problem? When do you think we're going to start to get over that?
Well, I mean, I'm dealing with that now because I'm in the last couple months of my retirement. So I got all my medical records, had them delivered, went online. I'm like, oh man, you know what? You know why all this stuff is missing? Because I didn't want to get med boarded. So I had most of my surgeries done. I had this hand completely rebuilt. Most of the bones in here, cadaver bone. I had a back fusion. I had one hip surgery done on post and one hip replacement done off post. But all my shoulder stuff, like I got all that done at a local place up in Raleigh, but I kept all this stuff out of my medical records because I did not want to get med boarded. So now I've had to go through a tremendous amount of just putting time towards putting all that stuff in there, right? Because I'm looking like, oh man, this isn't in there. Like this stuff isn't in there. So then going back and doing all that. At some point, it's going to bite you in the ass. So even something as simple as just going to see the physical therapist with them putting their notes in, that's super powerful for when you decide to get out, right? And the reality is, you should be selfish. You should be investing in yourself and taking care of these things because one, being selfish allows you to be a more valuable human being, a more valuable soldier, and that allows you to be more selfless when it comes to providing for your team, right? So when you're investing in yourself and you're taking that time, not just to document stuff, but to actually take care of your body, well, yeah, it's going to improve your longevity. And you can be gritty as fuck when you're a younger soldier, and you're probably going to recover from
When you're
that.
made of rubber, when you're made of
Right.
rubber and magic, right?
Right. But as you get older, that stuff it is gonna catch up with you sooner rather than later. And there's so many people I see that, it's generally like in our community, it's like a lot of leg issues, right? Knees and calves and plantar fasciitis and all this crazy stuff, right? And people just ignore it. Yeah, well, at some point you're not gonna be able to ignore it anymore. And you're like, man, if I go back in time, because yeah, okay, so you impress some people for a little bit, but it's going to be more impressive if you actually help set a culture of people that aren't lazy. You're not just shamming, but like, hey guys, we're actually going to be smart about how we're training, and we're actually going to not just take care of ourselves, but like, we're going to take care of each other too, right? Like there is a standard. We have to be able to do these things, but at least in our community, we have access to all this stuff, right? Use it, right? And it's not a bad thing to go get mental, help through a professional. It's not a bad thing to go see the sports psych and actually implement. Like I know for my team, when we did PT in the morning, and then we did PT every day in the afternoon at the Thor 3 facility, 2 to 3 times a week. The sports psych would come in and work with us, doing things that you think were dumb. Like, hey, you guys are doing these row sprints on the rower, and he's showing you this map, and you have to memorize the map, and then 3 minutes later, you're just trying not to suck. You get to show like where the red or the blue routes were. And it's just training you, like, even when you want to zone out because you're sucking that bad, that you still need to stay switched on and focused. And then, okay, you're doing 10 minutes of 70 pounds sandbag get ups at the 5 minute mark. You're going to get up. We're going to come over here in this heart rate variability machine. You get 30 seconds to get in the zone because you practice these techniques, right? Like putting that stuff in your training programs and making sure like, hey guys, go see the physical therapist. Like if this hurts, don't ignore that. It's a cultural thing, right? I think, I grew up in the infantry. That wasn't a thing. I got
Yeah.
counseled once because I went to sick call because I had pneumonia, and I was told that as a leader, I can't show weakness by going to sick call, even though I was on my deathbed. Like it's completely ridiculous.
Yeah. Um, my buddy will appreciate this. Shout out to Alex Booth. We went to lunch in the regular army at Whataburger. Both of us got food poisoning. And I remember
Nice.
getting screamed at, both of us getting screamed at. I had already been selected and I was like post soldier of the quarter or some shit like that. And the
Right.
sergeant first class is yelling at us that we went out drinking all night. And I mean, this just reinforced I got to get the fuck out of here. And we're both, it was like the commander finally had to get in and go, said, please send them to sick call. They're throwing up in the bathroom. We weren't out drinking. We just got some bad food. And we get to the doctor who said, yeah, we've been getting a lot of food poisoning calls from there. But that was the attitude at the time. If you're sick, you're a shitbag, obviously,
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
Tuesday. Um, well, you brought up the mental health, right? Is it even more? I'm going to ignore these problems for fear of losing my career still. I mean, guys are seeing, and this has been ramped up we've been at war for 20 years, right? And it just ramped up the entire time of guys not taking care of themselves. Are we going to start to pull out of that, or is just the kind of life at group and regiment still going to feed into guys putting their mental health eighth on the list of things they need to take care of?
I think it's still viewed as something where people think it's like a sign of weakness. And I think the reality is most, at least special forces guys specifically, they don't like to dedicate time towards it because it's not something I can't go do, 3 months of really dedicating time to mental health stuff and then go post, brain biceps on the internet, right? Like there's nothing I can do to show like how awesome I am to my buddies or online with that kind of work. It's really an internal thing that you have to be okay with. And it's not something that you see like tangible results from right away. So I think people get really turned off by it because it takes time, and it's not something that you're going to get a bunch of clout for from your teammates. And that's one of those things like, okay, well, it's just for me. I need to take care of my own mental health. Left to bang. And then if something bad happens, I think it's still, people don't want to show that they're going to go to mental health. That's why, like, as a sergeant major, I try to, she's like, yeah, I go to behavioral health. I go get my stellate ganglion blocks, and I've gone and done hyperbaric oxygen therapy and done my 40 dives there. And I actively do things because I don't want to end back in this black. I've been in that place where I was in a black hole of not being myself, and I was surviving off some heavy drugs and whatnot. I don't want to be there again, and that's the way to do it. But I think that people they just don't like to do it because they think it's a sign of weakness. And the reality is we're humans. Like all of us have problems regulating our emotions sometimes. All of us are going to do stupid shit. All of us are going to be in places mentally where we can't understand why we're feeling the things that we feel because that's just how humans are. And I don't, unless you're just a real psychopath and you don't have emotions, you're going to run through those issues, and you're going to find yourself in places to where you don't think that you can cope with whatever's going on, right? No matter how strong you are, we're all going to be in those places. So I think it's important to try to change that culture and like, hey guys, like maybe the behavioral health is often overworked, but I've found that if I go in there and tell them exactly what I want, like when I went for my first stellate ganglion block, they're like, hey, I don't think you need this. I'm like, no, we're gonna do this, right? Here's why. And she's like, yeah, normally I don't do it for that. Like I wasn't in this position where I was like all stressed out. I was almost 2 level. I'm like, look, I'm 2 level. I don't have enough emotional fluctuation, and that's a problem because I know myself and I shouldn't be in this spot. And I think that I don't want to do drugs. I don't want to be in SSRIs. From everything I know about how this works, I think this will probably fix my issue. Plus, I have a lot of mental issues because I took a lot of brain damage in 2008. And I was like, no, hey, look, this is what we're going to do. This is why we're going to do it. So I found if you go in and just like, you're like, hey, this is what I need your help with, not just sit there like, fix my problems. I think that's another problem. And I was like, no, you have agency. You're responsible for fixing your own shit. Nobody else is responsible for fixing you. You are.
Yeah.
Those people are just there to help you, right? Like I think, we've created this whole culture of like, oh, the army's done all this shit to me. I'm a poor victim. Like, yeah, the army does some shit to you, but you also did it together. Like I was trying to retire 2 years ago, but when I found out both of my hips were dead and one was collapsed, I was like, no, no, no. I'm not going to get to the army until we do that. It's not the army's fault. Like we did that together and we're going to fix it together. So I'm not some invalid on the outside, like worrying about my hips, right? But it was up to me to make sure I fixed those problems, even though it was due to some shit that happened downrange that was catastrophic, right? Still on me to fix it. We did it together. So same thing with mental health. Like, no, no, no. you guys did this together. Like when you join the army, you know you're going to do some fucked up stuff. Like the nature of the game is that generally, like you're going to put yourself in harm's way. You're going to do things that could possibly end up in you not coming back alive or seriously wounded. And you're going to ask other people to do the same thing. People with families, people that you just went to a team party with last week. And now you're going to say, hey, I know this has a very high chance of getting you killed, but I need you to go do X, Y, and Z, right? We volunteered for that. We knew what it was when we volunteered for it. Yes, it can be emotionally catastrophic at times, but then it's on you to take ownership of your things and not just blame everything that you do. It's a dumb decision on PTSD. Like, yeah, that maybe contributed to you doing some things because you get these emotional states, but damn, I'm responsible for the state that I'm in. Like, I'm at least responsible for getting out of it. And I need to do that by seeing this professional or doing this thing or whatever it might be. Uh, yeah, I think that it's one of those things where it's a cultural thing that we've been battling forever. I don't know if we'll ever fix it, but hey, man, we're humans. We're all going to do dumb stuff. And sometimes things are going to help us be more prone to doing dumb stuff, like drinking more, right? Because it's just like, oh shit, like I can do this and now I feel better, right? Or whatever it might be. Like we're all prone to that, but we just got to take, like you told me before the show, like you made some decisions in your life where you're like, hey, I had to change this so I could fix X, Y, and Z about myself, right? It's the same shit. Like you took ownership of that and you fixed the issue, right?
And I feel much better for it.
See?
You mentioned that dark hole, right? And every enlisted guy that has come on here and talked to me and all the episodes that aren't released, everything has gotten their mental health has gotten so bad that they've either contemplated suicide or it has ruined or almost ruined their life.
Yeah.
Why do we all get there?
I think different reasons. If I'm thinking back, I think ego is a big part of it, right? Because I think one of the reasons why we don't go seek help or we get in these spots is that we tend to just we tell ourselves that we're this badass. There's no way I could actually be like this week where I'm about to go through this. Like for me specifically, I got wounded in 2008. They had to rebuild like my face from here down over the course of 4 years, and my jaw had a bunch of brain damage. I snuck into a deployment in 2010, and about halfway through the trip, my battalion CSM brought me and he's like, "Hey, Chuck," he's like, "You know how I know that you lied on your medical paperwork and you're not supposed to be here?" And I was like, He's like, "Well, one, you don't have any front teeth because I didn't have any front teeth at the time. I was still rebuilding my jaw." He's like, "So that's," and he's like, "So I called your surgeon and your psych, and they both said you got like 4 other operations, at least 4, and that the psych said you definitely aren't cleared for duty, so you're not supposed to be here." He's like, "I'm not going to send you home, but when you get home, you can't go back to a team and be operational until I see paperwork from these people that say you're cleared for duty, right?" So we got back. My team deployed again, and pretty quickly they lost 2 people that were my friends. And then a couple months later, the medic who pulled me out of the burning RG-33 when I got blown up in '08, he had gone over a 10th group from 3rd group. He died downrange, and I kind of like the survivor's guilt. And I was like, nah, like I don't. I'm Chuck Ritter. I don't let that stuff bother me, right? And I think the harder I fought it, the more deep in the hole I went, and you don't even realize it. And all of a sudden, I'm like sitting there, I'm like, shit, man, I'm just full of anxiety. I can't like, I can't even deal with my own shit right now. I'm like living off lorazepam, which is also like, cause you to be amnesic. Some people would call me the next day, like, "Hey, man, it was a great conversation we had yesterday." I'm like, I remember talking to this dude. So yes, I think we just because we try to be so strong, like we don't have to be, man. Like you don't have to be a badass, man. Just be a good human being. Like nothing. Like you don't. We're not. We're not like making anybody. We're not impressing anybody by like I'm this hard dude. Like nah, man. Like hey, I'm a normal human being. I have emotions too. I need to take care of myself right now. And especially people when they get out, I see them go in those holes because I think like one, they're missing the community. They don't have anybody to self check them, and then also they're going through the same thing. Like no, I'm just a badass. I can't. There's no way I could be like that weak. And then they find themselves in that place, right? And then they're coping with alcohol or SSRIs or whatever they got to use because they can't self-regulate at that point in time. So I don't know. I could be off. That's my personal opinion. I think we get in our own ways. I think, and ego's important because ego is just our sense of self-worth. It's when we find ourselves in that bandwidth of arrogance and hubris, which we all like. Even though I preach this shit all the time, like, man, we all need our egos checked, at least in this community, at least probably once a quarter. Like, oh shit, yeah, I'm just being that weirdo again. Getting down to that bandwidth of hubris and being competent and confident and having that self efficacy, but not being like this weird person that lacks confidence. But I think when we constantly operate, and we should be operating right on that edge, right? Especially if you're really good at what you do, you should be right on that edge. Maybe sometimes like a little over the line. But when you're in that zone, I think that's when you really start finding yourself that like shit, you really can't cope with all this stuff that you think you can. And then it's almost like you're in disbelief when you're in there. You're like, shit, I'm in this hole. Like, what the hell? You know what's easy though? There's alcohol. That's easy.
Yeah, you can go to the PX and they'll sell it to you. Well, it used to be 24 hours. I don't know if it still is, but you could just go any time of day or night and get more and
Yeah, and you get the military
make it all
special. You get the
better.
military special vodka, the military special, you know, whiskey for what's like $9 for a half a gallon, or it was
Oh
$9 for a half
yeah,
a
the
gallon.
you're talking about the plastic bottles for the
Yeah, it's on the
on the
real
bottom
bottom shelf.
shelf.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that reminds me because you could only get the 75% alcohol, uh, grain alcohol, what was Everclear off post, but if you went on post, it was 190 proof. I remember that. Yeah, that
yeah,
we'd make apple pie with that.
yeah.
Good times. Probably never do it again. Hopefully, never do it again. So yeah, guys will just self-medicate and drive
Hmm.
themselves insane. It's really sad. And then when you feel better, you're like, wow, I just wasted all that time. Why didn't I make better decisions? But like it's just me sitting here, you know, and listening to your stories. Like I got medically retired, and I'm just not my mind state now, but part of me's like, man, I only got a few concussions and I got medically retired. This guy got blown up and did all this other shit. Why didn't you go back to a team? Why didn't you do this? And that's a thing you have to live up to, right? What you think of yourself compared to everybody else. It's a very uh, I don't know, comparative environment where you are around tough guys, killers in group, and you want to be the best. Even if you can't be the best, you're going to do whatever it takes to try and get there. And you'll sacrifice everything just to even try.
Hmm.
That's it's kind of it's like you know it's hard to explain to people the attitude in the team room or down the hallway of a bunch of Green Berets, and it's different from any other work environment that you can think of, right? You can say professional sports or anything other like, but none of those career fields are the end state or the base skill is to kill people, and the environment feeds off of that and can be toxic. I think to all those other things that we talked about: mental health, resilience, physical health, emotional health. Why do we is it that addictive that we just can't get enough of it, and then when we get out we just can't handle it being gone?
Maybe. I mean, I don't think you really like. There was that meme that was going around. It was Dave Chappelle with the cocaine. He's like, hey, y'all got any more of those deployments, right? But the reality is you're like chasing those things, and you have families and everything else that you're like, oh well, like you come back and other people are like, oh, I'm sorry, you got to go over there. What are you talking about, man? Like, I'm trying to get over there. Like, I'm trying to find some combat. And people are like, well, why do you do that? And I mean, I don't have a good answer for that. That's something I've always struggled with. Like, why? I think it'd be like if you're in a professional football team and you just trained your ass off and you never got a chance to play a game. Like, no, you want to go play the game. Like you volunteered to do this. You want to test yourself. And it's weird. It's like I was writing a paper once. I never finished it. I probably should. It's about, everybody's like, oh, you're so selfless. Thank you for your service. Like, but are we really? Because most of us, like when you got families and all this other stuff, and you're out there chasing these events that could end your life and end the life of others, like, no, we're doing that for ourselves. Like when you're on the battlefield, like you're not really thinking about any of those stuff. You're thinking about what do I need to do right now to win and dominate. Just like back in the team room, like what do I need to do right now to be the best? What do I need to do right now to to just dominate and be awesome? I'm gonna ignore these mental things. I'm gonna ignore these parts of my body hurting. And yeah, I think because it's just these dopamine hits when you do like in the combat, like, most of it's pretty boring, right? But like the times that aren't, like, man, it's fucking terrifying for one, generally. But after that, like what you feel is like, oh man, it's like, then you like, and I would never say combat's fun. Like I think that people say that probably never got their shit pushed in out there. Once you get your shit pushed in a couple times out there and you realize that, man, like this is for real. You're like, okay, it's not that exciting, but for some reason you still want to go back and do it, right? Like I got blown up and then I deployed and I got shot up real bad, so bad that I died on the operating table. And then the next trip I'm out again and I get shot again. Like why? And yeah, it's you just crave it. And then, when it ends, you're like, shit. Like we're even right now for me, like shit, man, I will never deploy to combat again. I will never go see the world, never do all the stuff you're doing, like that's not directly like tied to combat. Like deployments even my worst deployment, man, was incredible. I never get to do that again, man. You get to travel the world and do cool stuff. Like, so I was simply like, I'm not joking when I'm on Twitter, but like, hey man, here's some cool stuff. Join the army. Like, nah, man, join the army. It's for whatever service because you get to do some badass stuff. You're pretty spoiled. You got a good paycheck. You got health care. You got access to military special $9 half gallon alcohols, I guess, if you want it, right? Like
It's
it's
always there. I guess people are
right.
buying it. Fuck.
It's there, but it's a pretty legit. Like you're retired, I'm sure. Like I mean, shit, you got a lesser known operator podcast. Like it's man, it's like a drug in itself, I guess. Right? It's just even if you don't deploy, just the team room life. Like it is great just to wake up every day and go do some hard shit. Be like, yes, we did that, and you're proud of it. It gives you purpose, right? It gives you that fulfillment.
Even just sitting in my basement having soft dudes come on here and talk about how it used to be is great. Like really great. I mean, hard to describe to anybody else that would understand it, but just talk to guys about what they thought about things or this or that deployment or this thing that happened to them. And you're right, imagine a football player training their whole career and never getting to play a game. I think about that every day, at least once a day. I wanted to be a Green Beret and deploy to combat, and I didn't get to do it. I'll never get to do it. Well, I shouldn't say that. The news is pretty bleak lately, but I will never get to do that. And I think about it every fucking day. And it's kind of shitty of me because people went and died or got hurt got fucked up like you did. But as you said earlier, that's what we signed up for, was to do the job. And I never got to do that part of the job. So kind of shitty to think about.
Well, that's just
But I'm not
luck and
hung up on it
timing
as
too.
like I used to be. Say again?
Oh yeah, that's just luck and timing too. Even like a lot of your valor awards and stuff. Like you don't. I mean, I've had whole deployments where I didn't go to in a firefight once. Right? It's just you don't know. It's just
Yeah.
it's really not up to you. You can't often control the shit that happens to you in life, but you can always control your actions and your reactions and your responses to those. Right? And I think that goes into real quick. Like I've had this conversation with multiple people lately about looking back on your life and having regrets. And I've come to the conclusion for me is like I don't regret anything. I've done a lot of stupid stuff. I've done a lot of things that have hurt other people or made a lot of really stupid decisions that um, could have panned out really bad for me or for others. And I've taken accountability of those things and be like, okay, that was real dumb. What can I learn from this? But somebody said like, okay, Chuck, well, if you regret this one thing, and that was pretty shitty of you to do, or this thing, that means you got to regret everything else. So if you do that, like, what are you really setting yourself up for mentally? And I was like, yeah, that's a legit statement. So the more I've thought about that, I was like, okay, I can't regret anything. I can be like sad about it, kind of, right, and definitely shameful of some of my own actions. Like, oh shit, that wasn't that wasn't incumbent with being a good human being. But what can I learn from that, right? For you, like, okay, well, you're not going to deploy, right? You're out of the military, but you can do things like this, right? So you can share these messages. You can share people's stories. You can share people's failures and what they've learned. And maybe somebody listens to that and they're like, damn, like I never thought about it that way. And that helps that person. Or maybe even you, like, shit, this guy said this. I never thought about it that way. And it's helpful to you, right? So it's like, it's both being selfish again because you're doing it, so you can live vicariously through others, but being selfless because now you're providing this for, the masses to listen to. And maybe it's some young person that's thinking about joining the military and like, man, that's spot on, man. I think that's what I want to do. Or maybe somebody's thinking about going to selection, or maybe it's somebody going through some kind of mental health turmoil and they're like, you know what? I need to stop being a weirdo, and it's okay for me to go and talk to a professional. In fact, I should. I think everybody should go talk to a psychotherapist a couple of times a year, even if you're not going through problems, because again, we're humans. You're going to struggle mentally. It's, there's no difference. Like the body is the body. Like your body responds to stress in certain ways, and you know, and this shit works. Like I remember going in my first stellate ganglion block. I always track my heart rate variability, and I was in an overtraining and a really stressed out like status. It was pretty low, and the day after the SGB, you can see, man, it's like healthy. And then when I started doing hyperbaric oxygen therapy, like it hasn't ever come out of that that lane in the last 2 years, because I also make sure I have habits to do that. But it's not magic. It's just what it is. Your body's going to respond to your mental state. Go take care of that stuff, man. But maybe somebody hears that and they're like, he's right. Let me go take care of my shit.
Yeah. And sometimes that's what it takes is just to go, oh, fuck. Yeah, you're right. Um, but yeah, you're right. That's the way my career was pushed, right? When I got hurt, I knew because of the roles I kept getting that all I was going to be in was a support role. Um, so I went to the B team, went to another B team, went to a C team, and I I liked it. A lot of guys bitch about going to the B team or going to C team. I still got to put my uniform on, so I liked being that role. I would go upstairs and do it tomorrow. I would go put my uniform back on if I could go to a fucking basement at group and at least get to support the guys via email and shit. Um, so a lot of other guys, I hate when they pitch. I didn't want to go to the B team. Or like, fuck that. I would stab somebody in the eye to go back to the B team. Fuck you. But with this, right? I can support guys and they can come on and tell their stories. And I've had some people talk about some stuff that I'm like, that probably felt good to get off your chest,
Right?
you
Yeah.
know? So just amazing things that people don't know me, but hopefully I can impress upon them that I'm just here to listen and talk to them about their shit. You said heart rate variability.
Mhm.
Curious. What's yours? I can't get mine over 34 like ever, and my wife's
Oh
is
wow.
120.
Yeah, you need to do some things to fix that.
Bro,
Mine
I'm
generally stays
fucking
between
healthy.
like 70 and 80. But again, HRV is relative too, right? Like that could be normal for you. The key with heart rate variability is to spend about 2 weeks getting a good baseline and taking some other metrics too. Like, okay, here's my blood pressure, here's my heart rate variability, here's my whatever else you're using. Like maybe it's like VO2 max or whatever, right? If you're doing it, if it's for physicals, if it's just mental stuff, then maybe a log of like, no, this is actually how I feel. This is what my HRV is, and then this is a couple other things, and then once you get the baseline, like it doesn't really matter what people's numbers are. It's just one of those things. Like you got to be okay with where I'm at. 30s is pretty low. Um,
I hang out from 28 to 32. I got the whoop on all the time,
yeah,
and my wife's is just so high, and I'm so fit, and it just doesn't get any better.
yeah, because HRV it doesn't care about your fitness, right? HRV is just your body's, it's your response, it's your body's mode of like. Do you find
Okay.
yourself being anxious a lot?
No,
Never. You never find yourself
I'm
like worried
I'm
or stressed out about anything?
I'm good. Like I've been good for 6, 8 months now.
Yeah,
Um, got on some supplements, so feel pretty good.
but overall, you
Not
sleep well
worried
too.
about anything. Yeah, sleep's been great. Hasn't improved. Anyway, we can talk more about it later, some nerd fitness shit. But yeah, it always because somebody was on a podcast the other day. They said their resting heart rate was 30 and their HRV was 150. And I said,
Wow,
"Am I
that's
dying?
great.
Am I dying?"
Yeah, I mean, that's
Because
30s. Like that just shows you're in a pretty solid sympathetic state for whatever reason. But maybe do some tests. Like what I found, like testing it out is I'll go watch a good comedy, like something that I find hilarious, and I'll see if it's actually spiking my HRV. Because the reality is, if like you really find yourself in that rest and digest mode where your body's kind of relaxed and you're having a good time and you're laughing, like for me at least, I can see it spike up. And it's just interesting to me, like, see, I get so nerdy even when I'm doing like new supplements and stuff. Like, if I take a supplement for sleep, like I will track my sleep, I will track my HRV. If it doesn't do anything for me in 2 weeks, then I just stop taking the supplement because maybe it doesn't work for me. I don't know.
More research to be done. Let's go all the way back. I assume you're a kid in your hometown, didn't know what you were going to do. 1998. Why don't I just join the military? What's going through your head at that time?
Well, I'd already tried to join the military a couple of years before that, and I'd failed a drug test at MEPS. But I failed the
Is
drug
that
test on purpose.
is that bad? That sounds bad.
Yeah, it haunts me to this day on every single security clearance, the drug test, and the fact that I had a $70,000 credit card fraud charge when I was working at Radio Shack. Yeah, it was like 1996, and this recruiter kept bothering me. The recruiting station was next to Radio Shack, and I was just like, and I was going to a special school. Like I was a bad, like horrible kid. I was skipping like 100 days of school and could never pass a class. So I was going to this special school that was developed for pregnant teens and people that are coming out of juvenile hall. You went to like 20 hours a week, and I'd done everything there. I could have graduated pretty early, but I still had algebra and I hated math. So I didn't have the credits for algebra. So this recruiter kept bothering me. He was like, yeah, still in school. Well, I'd broken into my house. My parents were out of town. They didn't want me to stay in the house because they knew I was bad kids. So anyway, they left the window open. We broke into a huge party, um, like we shouldn't have done. Anyway, I'm cleaning up this house on a Sunday. I'm all hungover in my underwear, and I get a knock at the door, and I open it. And it's this recruiter in his uniform. He's like, "Hey, man," he's like, "You keep saying that you want to join the army, but you have school left." I'm like, "Yep." He's like, "Well, cool. Here's your transcripts. Here's your diploma. You've graduated high school. The school has said that you graduated as long as you join the military. So you got to go to MEPS tomorrow, and you've graduated." I was like, "Oh shit." I was like, "All right. I guess I'll meet
That's a
you.
tactic.
I guess I'll meet you in the morning." And so I called one of my friends up. I'm like, "Shit, I can't join the military." So I called one of my buddies up. I was like, "Yo, how much weed you got?" He's like, "Why?" I was like, "I got a drug test I got to take tomorrow. I can't pass it. I need you to come up here. We need to do this." And he's like, "Why would you not want to pass a drug test? It doesn't make any sense." I'm like, "Man, it makes perfect sense if you just don't think about it. Get over here." Anyway, went to MEPS, did all that stuff. It was that week. Maybe it was the week after. In my head, it was like 2 days later. But he called me. He was like, "Hey, you can't join the army if you failed a drug test." But at that point in time, I had my diploma and my transcript, so I got what I wanted. I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that's weird. I've never done anything bad in my life." And then, but 98, when I was like, "Man, I got to get my stuff together." I failed bowling class in college at that point, and it was pretty embarrassing because my mom, she was an
Wait,
instructor.
one more one more time on that.
Yeah, I failed bowling. I failed a bunch of other classes on top of bowling class in college, but I definitely failed bowling class. So yeah, so
Ow.
and it, man, I don't even know. Probably because I kept going in the back with the owner, who's my friend, and smoking weed instead of actually bowling. But uh, the instructor wasn't impressed. But anyway, the instructor also knew my mom because she was a teacher there, so I had a full ride because of that. So I was embarrassing, and I was like, "Man, I gotta do something because this isn't gonna work, and I'm just gonna end up like." Some of the other people I was friends with at the time that weren't going anywhere. So I was like, man, I got to join the military. So I had to get some letters from congressmen. It took like an act of God to like get in the army this time and saying I was a changed man and some local officials, and I was like this little fat, like not in shape. I was a person you would pick last in any kind of sports. I sucked. I think the only two things I was good at as a kid, I was good at wrestling and I was okay at boxing, and I was like everything else. I couldn't catch a ball. Like I just sucked. So yeah, it was going through my head. I was like, man, I got to do something. And when I went, man, my very first PT test at basic when we had the old PT standards was 93 or 94 points out of 300. You got to get a 180 to pass. So they gave me that brief. They're like, hey, you can candidates or whatever the base, whatever they said, like, you can walk, but it's not recommended. Yeah, I took that to heart. So it was like a 24-minute 2 mile and, a very low amount of push-ups and sit-ups. So I sucked coming in pretty hardcore. It's pretty interesting. Basic trainings. My parents actually had a bet against me. They're like, "Hey," my dad said I wasn't gonna pass, and I didn't know. And at graduation, the great basic training graduation, they were exchanging money afterwards. I'm like, "What are y'all doing?" Like, "Oh yeah, your dad bet that you weren't gonna. There's no way in hell you could pass basic training, but I bet on you." I was like, "Oh okay."
That's gotta be that's gotta be a good feeling. Thanks,
Right.
thanks, Dad. Thanks, Mom.
They told me, he's like, damn.
Uh,
He's like, wow. I was like, there's no way I thought you were gonna make it through this.
that's an interesting tactic by the recruiter, though. In '96,
Right? Yeah. It must have been
was
hurting for
was
some. It must have been hurting.
he's I need one more not to get a negative counseling this month. You know what I'll do? I'll go to this stoner kids school and see
Yeah.
if they'll graduate him early so I can not get a counseling. I
Yeah.
like it. So when you went back to was it the same recruiter 2 years later or a different guy?
No, it was a totally
Okay.
different crew.
Why'd they get
Yeah.
you on 11 Bravo infantry?
I don't know. They got me that, and I got my station of choice, which is Hawaii, and I got a sweet little bonus, right? I was like, oh, this is too good to be true. Like, hey, if you can get all these letters and you can pass this preliminary PT test, because my GT score was good, um, then you can, this is what we're offering you, and that's what I got.
How was
I want to be
Hawaii?
11 Bravo. Hawaii was amazing. That was a great, and man, you're so physically fit there with the mountains and whatnot. And I thought the culture of the 25th Infantry was, at least the battalion I was in, was pretty wild. So when I got there, and when I graduated basic, I had like a 200, somewhere around a 200 PT test, like 214 or something. And I thought that was high. I was like, oh man, I made a lot of improvements in basic training. And I got to my unit and they gave me a PT test. They're like, hey, you can't be in the infantry with a score like this. Like this is ridiculous, right? So I had to take a PT test at one point every single week until I scored a 270 or above. That was pretty wild. But luckily, I had people that invested. I had some pretty good leaders that should have written me off because coming in like that, but they actually invested time in me. They made me do a lot of reading on doctrine, a lot of studying, and I hated it, and a lot of physical fitness. Like I think at one point I was doing PT 3 times a day with them, but I got in shape and I changed my mindset. It changed my own internal culture of how I view everything, and even now because they invested in me, I look at people like I don't care if there's lost causes. I'm at least going to take some time to invest in them regardless. And one of the board questions I ask people all the time is like, hey, okay, let's say you're whatever, you're an E6 in this unit, if they're an E6 board, and you get this new person in, and you see they got a $70,000 credit card fraud charge on their first PT test was 93 or 94 points out of 300. Now their PT score is still low, and they failed a drug test. What are you going to do? And they're like, oh, well, I'm going to go with JAG and get everything prepped because obviously this person's gonna suck. I'm going to invest minimal time into them. I'm like, okay, well, I just told you my story. So if people had done that to me, I wouldn't be an E9 sitting here talking to you. So the reality is, as a leader, it's your job to invest in people, even if it's seemingly a waste of time. Right? Sometimes you got to cut it off, but you still got to give that fighting chance and counsel them properly in a way that actually allows them to improve or gives them the chance to improve and become a badass, because that's your damn job. It's not negotiable.
Yeah. And for anyone listening at home that is in the military and does have to go to boards, from my experience in boards, if a sergeant major asks you a question like that, they're leading you to an answer they already know and they're trying to trap you. So be careful of that. So you always want to go the opposite of what you initially think. But that's just my 2 cents on that. But you liked it there at in Hawaii, and you things are going pretty good. Things turned around, and which is great, right? And that's really what's great about the Army. You can drop you in, and you can turn things around right away. I was bartending, and I wasn't really going anywhere in my hometown, and then I joined the Army, and it was instant. Like I am the best at this. I'm going to be the best at this, and everywhere I go, I'm going to succeed, and right away. And I just love that. And what do you think about have everybody having to serve at least 2 years in some sort of uniform service once they turn 18?
Yeah, I'm not against it, or at least some kind of federal service, right? Maybe not the
Yeah,
military,
there's many ways to serve.
right? Like, I mean, I don't know if you've ever read Starship Troopers, the book, like the movies, whatever, but the book is actually a pretty good thought experiment, in the society in the book, like you can't even become a voting citizen unless you've served in the
Mm.
military. And you can't become an officer in the book unless you've been enlisted first and you've been to combat. It's an interesting thought experiment. I don't know how it would work in our society. I'm not against it. I think that there's a lot of goodness in being put in these situations to where you do have to perform, right? Or you're going to get kicked out. And and for us, like you're in a position where if you don't perform and you are asked to go do your job, not performing is going to be catastrophic, right? That's going to lead to you dying or you causing other people to die potentially. So I think it's good just to put yourself in that mind state. Like, man, I got to know these things academically because I think people don't realize like in the military, like doctrine is important for a lot of things you do. And it takes a lot of time to educate yourself on and truly have the ability to critically think through some of those concepts of to where you are in the battlefield and you're doing things, even if it's just supply and logistics to where it's almost autopilot and you just know like, okay, well, if this, then this, and how to do these things. Or on the, for me on the battlefield as a special forces team starting like, okay, like I know how this is going to plan out in my head. We've done all this planning, but you know, understanding how everything works, so you've already visualized it, ahead of the head of the game. So when it happens, you're having less stress response and you just kind of being able to maneuver it around. Well, that's not just sitting there doing physical training and shooting guns. It's actually taking the time to think about and understand it. And the education you get in the military, like, man, my college has been free, right? I'm finishing my last class for my bachelor's. I'm going to go for my master's from Norwich. I was going to go to the Duke MBA program. I'm still debating. But again, that's paid for by the military. So you get to educate yourself and you get to do cool stuff and you get paid to you stay in shape. Like you're getting paid to stay in shape. Like it's just a requirement, right? How cool is that? You will wake up every morning. You're going to go work out for an hour. And if you don't, it's going to be frowned upon. Like
You're,
that's
you're,
awesome.
or you're going to get kicked out.
Right. It's just and I loved the infantry. I really did. It was a great experience. Not just Hawaii, but and I did a lot of stupid stuff in the infantry. Man, I was getting smoked all the damn time. A lot of learning, right? It was just a good experience. I think that everybody should experience like, and doing hard. There's so much value in just doing hard things and coming out on top and be like, yeah, I did that, and you can feel good about that, right?
Oh, I do. I mean, the hardest things I do are in the gym, and when done properly, I enjoy all of it. Just
Right.
the heavy weights, the long runs, and I hate running. I hate running more than most people, and I fucking do it anyway because it sucks. And I just like being fit and being strong, and that was what the army was. You're fit, you're strong, you're moving towards a singular purpose as a team. I loved it. I fucking loved everything about it.
Right.
So what was the
It's
draw to get you away from there to Special Forces? Was there a cool pamphlet or the recording or a video that with people with their hands in their pockets that drew you away?
well, so I didn't know anything about SF or Green Berets, but first Special Forces group had come into Hawaii a couple times, and they were doing some training events, and they were coming into one of our shoot houses, and they're like fast roping down, like blowing the doors off, and I was like, oh man, this is cool. And at the time I forgot what I was doing, but somehow I'd gotten involved where I'd helped them at one of the ranges. And, they gave me a certificate of appreciation. And I was like, man, these guys really took the time to like recognize us lowly people. I think it's a PFC or especially at the time for how we supported them. Like my unit would never do that. Right. And it was, I don't know, it was impressive to me. And I was like, man, I want to learn more about what they do. So I started doing a little bit of research. One of my buddies had been to selection, didn't pass, and he was telling me about it. And I was like, well, okay, this sounds like something I want to do. So I called the recruiter and took a PD test and, you know, went to selection. And I wasn't as well trained for selection as I should have been. I had some knee injuries going into that I probably shouldn't have ignored. Uh, a couple other things. And man, I barely made selection. Don't even, if I was a cadre there, I probably wouldn't have selected me. But, it's, when I got back from selection, I thought, I learned a ton in selection. People are like, oh, you just go and you do these things and it's hard. Like, no, the thing about SFAS that people don't really know about is that the cadre take a lot of time to instruct you on land navigation and how to prep certain things. They give you all the answers, and it's a great
Mm-hmm.
learning experience. And then what they're looking for is can you take something that you've been taught and then go and apply it in a timely manner, and then have the fortitude, the grit and the adaptability and the intelligence levels to do what they're asking you to do. Right. I thought that was pretty incredible. So when I got back, though, I was like all pumped about it. And then for some reason, I decided I wasn't going to go to SF. I was going to go to the second. And then, but Swick actually called me like, no, hey, I see you're on orders for the second, but we're changing that. You're coming to this class right now. And then I went to that. I was like, oh, and I thought about it. I was like, okay, I don't got any problems with that. And then, yeah,
What year was this?
man, that was 2000. Went to selection 2000. Yeah, before
So before the
to,
bang. This is left of the boom.
this left of the
Uh,
boom. Yeah.
the Nexus event where everybody's life changed. So yeah, you're close, and because I talked to Colonel Sullivan, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to him the other day. He was in language school, and they were all hoping that language, because they're going to get canceled and they can get to group quicker. They're like, oh, they're
Right.
not going to
Yeah.
send us to language. I was like, no, sir, the SOF is not mass produced. You know that.
Mm-hmm. I forget though, because you're talking about the gym and like how it feels good, right? Have you read the paper called The Iron by Henry Rollins?
No, I have not.
Oh, we should read this.
One
I want
side of one side effect of all the hit is I've switched over, but I will write that down. The iron, you said?
yeah, because I'm just gonna read you this one of the quotes from that paper, right? This is what he says is the iron never lies to you. You can walk outside and listen to all kinds of talk, get told that you're a god or a total bastard. The iron will always kick you the real deal. The iron is the great reference point, the all knowing perspective giver. Always like a beacon in the pitch black, I have found the iron to be my greatest friend. It never freaks out on me, it never runs. Friends may come and go, but 200 pounds is always 200 pounds. I always thought that was
I
always a
love it.
badass quote.
I love it. And it's true. It's so true, right? Because um, you can talk all you want, but I can go to the Y and I can get on the treadmill. I can run a 6 minute mile, and I can go bench 405 pounds, and then I can go downstairs and get in the pool, and I can do a 50-meter subsurface. And you can't fake any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
The gym, you can talk all the shit you want or whatever, but the fucking doing it, just love it so much. And those three things are like the ones I'm proud of at the gym, right? Of being 240 pounds, and I can do those three things. That's it right there. And
Yeah.
that's what I'd like to stay at that. I just, but that's the other thing, right? I couldn't be on a team anymore. So I was like, I'm going to be fucking strong. I'm not going to let
All
anybody
right.
hurt me again. Like ever. There's going to be no doubt that I know Nick can't do it, but fuck, he looks like he could, right? He fucking looks like he could. And that's the impression I want to give to people. When I step up in front of people to speak, whether I'm representing myself now or Green Beret Foundation, I want there to be no doubt that that man is a Green Beret. And I want to represent the regiment and myself the best I can possible. And the gym is the only way to do that, because people have this perception in their mind of what a Green Beret was. And that wasn't us. It's just a hallway of mostly normal looking dudes that are fucking
Mm-hmm.
tough individuals. Uh, Most of them don't look like me. That's not the healthy body style for a Green Beret, because it's fucking hard to lug around,
Mm-hmm.
right? To lug all that weight around. But yeah, getting back to what you said, the iron, it doesn't lie. You got to be able to perform in the end, right? And that's the team life, is performing like your life fucking depends on it. And no, not bullshitting around or lying about anything.
Yeah. A lot of people spend a lot of time trying to give the perception that they're good or they're a good human being or they're badass and just like now just spend that time like being a good human being, being strong and doing those things and less time just trying to portray that you are. It's like it's just a waste of energy, man. Just go do it.
Yeah. Just, yeah, when people ask me about something, especially younger soldiers, should I do this? Just go fucking do it.
Just do
Just
it,
go
man.
fucking do it, because you're going to regret it if you don't later. If you're already asking me and I've already done the shit, I can tell you, you're not going to regret. Just go do that one thing. Um, like the quote on my Instagram, right? It's never too late to become who you could have been.
Mm-hmm.
And that's with this whole thing. Like, I don't care if I'm like 10 years behind the biggest podcast in the world. They're not going to want to do it anymore in 10 years, probably. But I might.
Yeah.
Who knows? Everything cycles out. If you just keep at it, fuck,
Yeah.
you know, everything goes up and everything comes down. So, yeah, just fucking do it, right?
Dedication, discipline. That's the secret of life right there. That's it.
Oh, and it's such a big difference in life and in the gym when you just have that consistency of just a little bit and not overdoing it, not underdoing it, just getting right in that zone where you're not killing yourself and you don't have that voice in your head going, "Hey, you're not fucking doing anything." Getting that sweet spot of when you really start to make growth, and that's in the gym and your relationships and your personal life and everything. Um, when I
Well,
started listening to professionals, yeah,
I, as professionals, like a atomic athlete likes to say, like, just make sure everything that you're doing, whether it's in the gym or your life or any kind of training, like follow the 4 P's, which their 4 P's is like everything needs to be intentional. The 4 P's is whatever you're doing has a purpose, right? So you know what you're trying to go for, and then you create a plan to get to that purpose. That plan is feasibly progressive, so you're not overdoing it, you're not underdoing it. It is going to get you to where you want to go, and then you utilize or use periodization to where you're switching out. Like, okay, maybe for like a gym, for instance, like, okay, now I'm going to do strength, I'm going to do strength endurance, hypertrophy, whatever it might be, right? To where you're kind of cycling in and out so you get to wherever you're going, because that ensures that you reach your desired end state. Whereas if you're not, you don't have a plan, you don't have goals, you're just doing random acts of training, call them rats. Like it may lead to a desired end state, but you don't know, it's just random acts stuff. People do that the same thing with life, with like random acts of life. Like, no, hey man, sit on the same way you do your plan out your gym programming, plan out how you're trying to do your life. I mean, sit down and plan it out. Like, here's my goals, here's what I'm going to try to achieve, and like, how are you getting there? So you're not just doing random acts of life and wasting your time, because time is our most precious resource, and you can't get that back. So make sure you're applying it appropriately in the gym, or whether you're living your life, and that comes down to making sure that you're living with intention, just like you're training with intention. Like every time I go into the gym, like, shit, I could do more. But you know what? Right now, like for me, coming out of this last surgery a couple weeks ago, like shit, like tomorrow or yesterday was a 1.5 mile run. Tomorrow's a 1.5 mile run because I'm moving up in total volume for the week. And even though I'm like, man, I could totally do more than this. No, it's not more. Like today, I've got deadlifts. It'll be the first time I've done deadlifts since my hernia surgery, and literally it's just going to be the bar, the hex bar, doing 10 reps. Like I think it's 4 rounds, right? That's going to be horrible because I'm going to be like, this is nothing. But that's okay. It doesn't have to be nothing. I just to make sure my body can move through that range of motion and not hurt, right? And then on Friday, I'll put 10 pounds on each side. So with the hex bar, 65 pounds, it's like 85-pound deadlifts, which is ridiculous, right? Like I'm going to feel like a weirdo, but that's okay. Like it's just that's the plan. And the plan is going to lead me to dominating an Army combat physical fitness test in December, pain free. But again, it's just like you said, it's gonna not doing too much, not doing too little, just making sure I'm in that spot, and it's gonna lead me to exactly what I want to achieve. Not just maybe, but it will because I planned it out.
that's the place where you can do some damage, right? Yeah, because overdoing it, especially our culture, big on overdoing shit. Just if we're gonna do it, we're gonna PR or ER, as I always say, right?
Mhm.
Should I do this? Yeah, you should absolutely do it. I'll dial 911 and we'll wait for see what happens. Um,
Yeah, and we all do that. I'm sure all of us will do that again. I'm sure a couple weeks from now, I'll be like, yeah, I was stupid. I should have done that. But again, it's ego, right? It's like our ego gets in the way. We're like, oh man, I gotta look cool.
yeah, I get that way at the Y. People will load up the leg press machine with I don't know 7, 8 plates on each side, and then they'll move it like this far. So I'll load it up with 14 plates on each side and do full range of motion just to show everybody that they're weak. But nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Nobody
Like
cares.
I'm the only one, but I'm proving a point. Like you're not doing anything. You're not. That's not how you do it. But nobody looks. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. But still, I get a good workout because it's like fucking thousands of pounds. Um, so you should say one thing. We don't get that time back. It just reminded me of a podcast I listened to, And there was a segment in there they talked about sundials, right? And there's always some Latin saying around this outside of a sundial, and they pointed one out that they stood out to them. It's translated to "It's later than you think," and that's, I think, sums up the you don't have, you know, you may think it's early in the day, but it is truly later than you think in your life, and you don't have as
Mhm.
much time as you truly think you do.
No.
And I think about that one a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and it's too late. Like I said on many of the other shows, is it's a shame that experience takes such a long time to garner. Uh, we don't realize that it's just flying by until you get into your, well, for me, into my now late 30s. Um, that fuck, you know, if I wish I would have taken my phone out of my pocket and taken some pictures when I was in my 20s and in
Yeah.
uniform. I have no pictures of me doing anything.
Really?
Uh, I have none. I've got a disc I found. There's some pictures on there from Korea. I got to figure out how to read a disc. But I have nothing. I mean, I think I have 10 pictures, maybe 10
Damn.
pictures that I could put together because one of my buddy's kids messaged me last night and asked it. And he said they're going to do a slide for me up at their school. And he's like, "Can I get 3 to 4 pictures?" I said, "How long do I have?" It's going to take me a while to put them together. But did you ever stop to look around when you started or going through your career and take it all in, or was it just flying by?
Yeah, later, but not in my younger years, right? Just flying by, just chasing that next deployment or the next hard thing. And um yeah, I think the first time I really started looking at, oh man, like I got to really evaluate like what I think about myself is I went to Ranger Regiments pre-Ranger and failed it. And that was like one of the, I think it was very good for me because it was like a punch to the gut. It was like, man, I need to start thinking about what I'm doing. And then that's kind of really where I started evaluating how I train too, and my body and my ego. And again, that's where I think that it's important for all of us to have a damn ego check, especially in this community, like maybe once a quarter, like just like, hey, at any point in time in our lives, like absolutely none of us are as awesome or, as horrible as we think we are at any given time, right? It's just not a thing. But I think we need to be reminded of that quite a bit. And then I think that those lead to us thinking about life and how we're spending our time and, what it is that we're actually doing.
Yeah, goes by too fast. But
It
you,
does.
so we'll go back. So you get into the course, not by your choice. You wanted to go to the 82nd. Why did you want to go to the 82nd from 25th?
Uh, I think at the time I had these weird aspirations of like, man, I want to eventually go into Delta Force, right? So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do that. People are like, oh, you go to an airborne unit first, and then you can go be a Green Beret, and then more likely, you have a better chance of getting in. Which all that's just stupid, horrible advice anyway.
That's
So,
knowing what you know now. That does. I don't think any of that applies.
no, it's ridiculous. Again, we often take advice from people who have no idea what they're talking about, right? So,
None. None.
uh, and then yeah, so but when they're like, hey, you're going to the course, I was like, okay, that's probably what I should do anyway. And yeah, so I mean, I was excited about it. I obviously didn't get any of my choice. I don't think any of us get our choices that we put when we come in and what we want to do. Like I don't think I chose 18 Bravo Weapons Sergeant. I know it for a fact I didn't choose French. I was like number fifth on my list. And I'm glad I went to Bragg, but I originally picked Colorado. Right. But they're gonna put you where they need you. So but I'm glad it all panned out the way it did.
What was the course like? Because when did you graduate? When was 9/11, and when did you graduate in there?
So I graduated in '03, and
Okay.
at the time it was what they're calling the 750 ramp up. So they took like around 30 of us who had infantry experience and had EIBs, and they made us go back and be guest instructors for some of them for a year. I got out of there in like a little less than 6 months, but we had to go back and help teach phase two because they were ramping up the numbers so significantly that they didn't have the cadre to facilitate it. So I signed in a third group and they're like, hey, cool, you're getting on this bird in 3 weeks. And I was like, okay, sweet. Like I slipped through the cracks. I don't have to go back to McCall. And then they're like, hey, no, this is actually a thing. They've already put you in the system is you got to be a guest instructor. So you're not going on this trip. I'm like, damn. So went out and did that. And then what was also cool is when I got back from when I signed in from doing the instructor gig, another battalion was deploying to Afghanistan. So it was like 3 weeks after I signed in again that I went to Afghanistan. So it was, and then at that point, it was just back to back trips. Like you were never home for more than like probably 4 months between trips. But even it is between like if you're home training, you're training like you don't have a whole lot of head on pillow time. So that was a wild decade. That was a wild first 10 years in special operations. It was just that was yeah. I can see why most marriages fall apart, right? Like you're just constantly gone. You're not doing the 18-month pumps that other people are doing, but you're doing 6 to 8 months, sometimes a year, and then you're coming home. I remember like we did that Afghan trip, came back, we weren't home for more than 6 months, and we went to Yemen. So we're working on Yemen, and that mission kind of went to shit. So we ended up getting pulled out of there, and we had all our equipment, and we weren't back for very long, like maybe like a month, and then we were in Iraq. Uh, and then we came back from that, and we weren't back for like 6 months, and then we're back in Afghanistan. And actually, no, they sent us to the USASOC mountain course because they still have the mountain team. So we were in the mountain course for like 7 months, and the unit deployed to Afghanistan. We came back from the mountain course. We were only back for like a week from that, and then we deployed to Afghanistan. So yeah, that was the op tempo at the time. Like, and you were chasing after that. That's what you wanted. You was like, oh, I'm sorry I had to do that. Like, that's the life we volunteered for. It was a pretty awesome life. Looking back, like, is it the most healthy? Maybe not, but it's fun.
No, it's definitely not the most healthy, but you're a tough young man at the time. You can handle it.
Yeah,
Surrounded by other tough men, and if you need to take a knee, they'll call you gay and throw a tampon at you in the team
yeah,
room.
pretty much.
So
Yeah,
you'll be fine. You'll be fine. And you're right. Yeah, marriages are, I imagine, we're at an all-time high in the 2000s to 2010. Well, even through 2020. I got attached to a team when we were in Korea. I think we had like 17 divorces
yeah. Oh
for the
wow,
13 dudes or some shit like that. And some of the guys had never been married. So one guy skewed
wow.
it. He had a bunch of them. But yeah, very common thing was to get married and then get divorced when you just can't, and then get married right away again.
Yeah, yeah,
Very
yeah.
common theme in the military. So, and when you tell that to civilians, they go, what are you talking about?" But it's just in the military, it seemed like it's just a normal thing. That was just
Yeah.
part of the military was getting married and divorced every couple of years.
Yep. Yep. And you don't even bat an eye at it. Like okay, he's got a new girl. Cool. I don't even know
Yep.
what her name
On
is,
to,
but
no, yep. Completely normal, everyday occurrence in the military. Was there any point in the Q course where you were like, I don't know if this is right for me?
no, the Q course was awesome. I often think back on my time in the Q course, like for all the time. It was such a great experience. I enjoyed, phase two, the small unit tactics portion. It's kind of my wheelhouse anyway as an infantryman. It sucked. I think I lost 28 pounds out there. We went through like it was in the wintertime. And yeah, I remember breaking ice off my rucksack to get into it all the time. And we went through like one of the worst ice storms in North Carolina history out there. And I mean, that I don't like the cold that much, but the whole thing was fun and just robbing sage. And I went with the weapons course. Like I'm literally waking up, I'm doing PT, I'm going in, and every day I'm just messing with guns. Like every weapon in the world, like you got to be able to mess with it and know about it and put together and take it apart and understand the capabilities. And you're out there with like you know anti-aircraft systems where you're doing fake lock-ons in aircraft and going through the whole thing and learn how to use mortars and eh, it's just it's a cool job just to have. Like that's what you're getting paid to do is to wake up and learn all these things and do these things and you get to learn a second language and then you go to SEER school, which I'm sure everybody pretty much has the same experience to where it does suck, but then you're like, I'm really glad I went through that. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about, being interrogated, obviously, and some other things. But you're like, man, that was a crazy experience. I can't believe like I went through that. But you come out just understanding yourself so much better. You're like, okay, yeah.
I It's funny when SEER comes up on here. There's not much you can say about it other than it was a really good school. But I hopefully have a line on one of the cadre coming on the show. I hope the famous one, the one that was one of the cadre out at SEER school, the one that become famous. Hopefully he's going to be able to come on the show, but we'll see. More to follow on that. Um, I loved it too. I think about the Q course all the time. I had a blast. Probably partied too much, but I would just show up, crush a school, and then go party, work out every once in a while. And yeah, I don't remember my language anymore. I can barely speak Thai. Do you still speak French?
I try not to. I mean, I'm sure I could if I really had to, but I haven't gotten language pay now in a year. So,
Oh, okay.
just, I don't know. French is one
One
of those
skill that
languages.
we're all supposed to know.
Yeah. I was pretty decent at French throughout my career, because you have to take the test every year. But also all my deployments were to places where I worked with the French once in 2010. I never, even when I was in Third Special Forces Group, I never went to Africa. Uh, I was always in the Middle East or Southwest Asia. So it was just kind of annoying to me because I had to be good at this language, but I never got a chance to use it. And then, yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of annoying. So now I just like, I'm done with French. I can barely speak English properly. So, let me work on that because I actually have to get up every morning and I have to practice speaking because I do have some serious cognitive issues from brain damage. And if I don't do that, I can't speak properly. It's one of the reasons why I got into when I was hosting the Pineland Underground podcast for the Special Warfare Center of Schools. It helped me work through that issue that I have. So yeah. So
Yeah, this is even, I think this is the 20th recording. I can feel like a difference in my ability to speak and
yeah.
switch subjects. And it hasn't even been that long, just a couple months, but I can kind of form my question and put it over here and then have it ready for when there's a break in the conversation and things. So, but you said Pineland Underground
Mm-hmm.
podcast, but
Mm-hmm.
that was USF Youth SWIX podcast,
Yeah,
right?
no, yeah, it was the official podcast of the United States Army Special Warfare, John F. Kennedy Special Warfare Center and School, and we actually took that thing to like the numbers were great and it endured. It's survived like two other sessions of hosts. With the new administration, they're kind of like on a little bit of a pause, but they've got a great team. I'm pretty excited to see that thing, keep on keeping on. But it was the first military podcast. Like we brought it to the number 3 spot on the charts in government and the only people that were outdoing us, or even it was a number 4 slot, were like PBS and like people that had full staffs and all that stuff. But we're the highest ranked military podcast there for a while. That was a pretty good feeling because you can't have sponsors. You do have some significant limitations, but it was cool. It was a good experience. Glad we did it.
That sounds fun. I mean, I know I get excited when I see any viewership on my show. So it must be exciting when you start creeping up and you actually see it competing with other people's things.
Yeah, that
Um,
was cool.
I joke that, yeah, you talk about staff. I joke with my wife. She's like, "Are you going to do this?" I was like, "I got to check with my scheduling guy." She goes, "Isn't that you?" I said, "Yeah." I'm also the producer and the editor and the social media manager. So what was it like? Okay, so you had to go be a guest instructor. So you had your tab and your beret for a while, which is weird. Usually you don't have to go to the schoolhouse for 3 to 5 years after you graduate, but you had to go right away and do your SWIC tour. But whatever, it's a new war going on.
It was
What's
a
it
mini
like
tour.
walking in? It's a mini tour.
Yeah.
You didn't get credit for that, though, did you?
No,
Well, I guess you went
no,
to
no.
war for 10 straight years, so you probably put off
Yeah,
SWIC for a while.
yeah, yeah. For
Um,
probably too
what's
long.
it like walking into, or maybe you didn't even have that because you just went right into deployment mode when you got to group, right? Did you have that new guy initial
Well, yeah, it was
probation
it was
period?
it was the ultimate walking into a team room because I got to Afghanistan and the team I was on at the time was out in the middle of nowhere on the Arghandab River. And the team I was officially assigned to, they'd broken that team up for that trip and they'd put people on different teams because at the time, like you didn't have them. You had like 7, 8 people on an ODA at the time. So that was a way for them to have full detachments. So I was assigned to the Halo detachment for that trip, me and a couple other guys from my team. And I remember I got on a Chinook to fly out there, and out there, and it's taking forever to get out there. We land and the ramp comes down. I'm all kitted out, man. I got my helmet on, like I'm like, full gear. I'm feeling awesome. And I step out of this bird, and it's like, it's a desert, it's middle of nowhere. And there's a bunch of four-wheelers there. There's like 5 like pretty built dudes with just gnarly, awesome beards and goggles on with no shirts on and ranger panties, right? And they're all tan, they're all jacked and tan. And one dude's got like an MP5 slung over his rifle. I'm like, holy shit. I look out and like you can see there's gun trucks at the apex. I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's security. They're like, welcome to FOB or 8 Camp Lane. And I was like, put your shit over there and come on. And then, I got on this four-wheeler with this, dude with my arm around this sweaty, freaking dude with a beard. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, I look like an idiot, I guess, looking all like this. So they took me up there, and then I got the debrief from the team started, and he's like, all right, he's like, here's your left and right limits. He's like, you need to be creative. I'm not going to wake you up and tell you what you got to do every day. Like, it's on you to find work and do these things. Like when it comes to a mission and stuff, yeah, we're going to brief you that this is what you're going to do. You're going to be in charge of cleaning out the trucks. You got to prove yourself because, just like anywhere else, nobody cares what you did yesterday. Like, what are you bringing to the table today? Prove yourself here and make a name for yourself. And yeah, that was a crazy experience. It was literally in the middle of nowhere. Like we didn't have any showers. Like when you wanted to go take a shower, or when you wanted to wash, rather, we would take a couple gun trucks down to the river, and half the guys would pull security, and then we'd go jump in the river and bathe. And then we had to be real careful. But dudes were cutting their feet because our Afghan or the one of the commanders at the time was just the Afghan army. They were shaving their balls in there, and they just leave the razors in there. So people chopping there. And then for some reason, the Arkansas River, there's all these freshwater crabs too. So they'd like bite your feet. So it was like a damn horror movie of sorts going down, taking a shower. So you had to wear like flip flops and yeah, it was just such an odd experience. It was such a cool deployment too, because it was a brand new fire base just out and literally in the middle of freaking nowhere. And yeah, that was definitely learned a lot that trip. Screwed up a lot of things, got yelled at quite a bit. That was pretty good. Got to do a lot of really cool stuff. Really see a lot of Afghanistan out there. Do a lot of operations on four-wheelers and doing a lot of like lighter operations up in the mountains where we'd go up for 2 or 3 days and you don't have a whole lot on you because you know you're not going to get decisively engaged. But yeah, it was a great first trip, great first learning experience. Um, just a bunch of awesome guys. In fact, the team started there. I was talking to him the other day for the first time. We called him Angry Bob.
I wonder why.
The second day I was there, they did the old like the Middle Eastern washing machine. I know how to use them. I was like, "Hey, Master, do you know how to use this washing machine? Or what's wrong?" I said, "Do you know what's wrong with this washing machine?" And he looked all wide eyed. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning. He comes over there like stomping. He's like, "This." He's like, "This," and he picks it up and he throws it. And he's like, "Do I look like I'm a damn wash machine repairman?" I'm like, "Oh shit." I look over and there's other guys laughing. They're like, "Hey, bro, don't ever talk to him before he's had his morning coffee." I'm like, okay. So yeah, he came back later and apologized, and then obviously we had to dig out a new wash machine because that one was broken. But yeah, it's pretty good.
I feel like he probably had some other shit going on in his head then, maybe. Yeah, if that's what set him
Nah,
off.
that was just him. He's a great guy. But yeah, it's like, hey man, don't we call him Angry Bob for a reason?
I'm
That's why.
I'm sure he was. We all are, we all are. It's just everybody's got their thing.
Yeah,
Um, don't talk to him before he's got a morning coffee.
yeah.
Roger, not gonna
I did
fucking
that
make that
again.
mistake again. Yeah.
Never had an issue again, except for a couple times he legitimately was chewing my ass for some stupid stuff. But I deserved it.
Were you guys a cardio team or a strong team?
That team out there was just a whatever team because there's no weights or anything back then. Like we were out there like fat. Like I would go out and take 5-gallon water jugs and strap them to me on some dip bars and pull up bars that we made. Like when we went running because the way the fire was set up, like kind of put on security and then kind of run like a route out there. So, but when we got back, the team was definitely more of a cardio team. We'd actually run every day. Going to the gym was kind of on you, but most of the dudes could run pretty well.
Yeah. That's very important in regiment is what's the phrase that everybody would say? If you're one something, you better be able to run something. If you're two something, you better be able to move something. Where did
All
you
right.
fit in for most of your career?
I was just kind of in the middle. I mean, there was a time where like what I kind of prided myself on for a while is that I could deadlift like, 545 pounds and I could military press my body weight and I could still run a sub 40-minute 5 mile. Um, I can't do that anymore. So now I'm just trying to get my power to weight ratio a lot more refined because I'm going to go run this 50-mile race. I haven't run 50 miles before. So, you know, I've always had to do a lot more cardio than other people to have my, my aerobic capacity where it needs to be. My body just doesn't really respond to that kind of stimulus as well as it probably should. And I found I got like some fluid in the intercostal space of my lungs. And I've had lung issues since I got blown up. I didn't really have those too much beforehand. So I just got to be a little smarter in that training. But I prided myself on kind of being well rounded, right? I could, I was like, okay, I'm 225 pounds, but I can run far, I can lift heavy. Um, but again, you can't do that forever. So you got to kind of pick or choose because, you know, the, the body at some point in time is going to start breaking down. Just age, just
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah,
So,
you
I
got to
mean,
change your training to go what you want to do. I'm trying to do it all right now. So we'll see which one comes out ahead.
yeah.
Strength usually wins out. But um, so that was your first introduction to what SF life is going to be. And was it just really rinse, repeat, back and forth? I mean, because as well as you said about it earlier, okay, you're back for 6 months, but you've got a school in there, you got a 6 week train up,
Mm-hmm.
you got 100% accountabilities on both ends, and then you get to see your family for 49 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else we get to jam in there in those 6 months?
The cool thing is it sounds like it'd be rinse and repeat, but it's not. You're always doing something incredibly awesome. Like, we came back from a trip. Okay, we're going to go to this 2 week shooting school up in this other state near Nashville, and then we're going to go to this offensive and defensive driving school where you learn how to pit maneuver and counter pit maneuver, and you're messing with paintballs and getting tased and all this stuff. And then now you're going to go back to a trip that's completely different because now this time, it's gonna be very like in Iraq. As we were there with the third ACR in Talafar, Iraq, and it was all urban combat. Where at the end of that, not at the end of the trip, but near the end of the trip, HR McMaster's was the ACR commander. He's like, all right, we're gonna build a berm around the city. Everybody's got about a week to get out. If they don't want to fight us, we're gonna start from the south, and we're gonna just clear this entire city from south to north, and we're gonna destroy it in the process. Which is exactly what we did. We'd bring up M1 tanks, hit the walls with or impact rounds, drop it, and then we were partnered with the Kurds, so we'd go through. We think we had 5 special forces teams there, just clearing the entire city. And before that, like, man, I'd be up on my little sniper perch in the castle in the city, and it's just like a super target rich environment. It was a wild ass trip, um, just completely wild. And then come back from that, and then the next trip we got deployed to a place where we were standing up a police SWAT unit to where we weren't doing a whole lot of kinetic targeting operations. We were building this unit and then allowing them to go out and do it on their own, and that's what you're doing the whole time. And that was pretty cool, able to build a program like that from the ground up. And that program was successful, endured for years. In fact, they ended up shutting it down years later because they said the unit was a little bit too effective. They got to where it was mostly Hazaras and they hated the Taliban, so they were just slaughtering everybody. So like, hey, it's gotten to the point where it's like actually just war crimes. So they shut that unit down. But it's cool to build something that was extremely effective. And then another trip, like then there was another combat trip, and then 2010, my team was charged with standing up the Afghan National Army Special Forces program. And again, we built something that endured to the very end of the war. Like the Special Forces teams really held that country together. And even at the end, like the Special Forces teams, the Afghan Special Forces teams, like helped get everybody out, from the airport. So even though that trip wasn't kinetic, it was something different. We had to build a completely new program from the ground up, and they're like, hey, you guys come up with a selection, how it needs to be. We're not going to give you any money for it. So you got to figure that out too. We built some special programs within that where we were like gathering a lot of intel, which was great. And again, and the next trip was very kinetic, and then I am getting shut up real bad the next trip, etc. So it's it's a lot, but it's never rinse and repeat. It's just always a brand new adventure that never gets old. And even my worst trip was completely awesome. I think, people come like, oh, it sucked. I'm like, it sounds like a you problem, bro. Like, I think that's you that did that. I always remember we were in a country in a former Soviet bloc country. And I mean, this trip was great. I thought like, we were training like their KGB type equivalent forces and, train a lot. And people were bitching like, oh, this sucks. It's like, what are you talking about? This is a great place. You can go down the road and have like a 50-cent beer, like at the end of the day when you're done, have some great food. We're living in a mansion. Like the State Department's paying for like maids. Like you'd wake up to the smell of bacon at 4:30 in the morning, go down and breakfast be prepared, load up the trucks, go to the training site, train all day long, come back. And it was amazing. But they're like, oh, well, it's not combat. Like, okay, well, who gives a shit? Like, this is a great trip. Like, what are you talking about? Um, yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's, going in the Army and SF is like to me, it's like the ultimate. You get to travel the world, you get to learn things, you get to shoot at some people sometimes. Sometimes they're shooting at you, and sometimes you get shot. But and there's risk that comes with it. Again, we all accept the fact that we're in a profession where the reality is, you or your buddies may not come back. You may not come back in one piece. Sometimes the best of us don't come back, right? Or we come back very scarred physically and mentally. Uh, and you got to deal with a lot of bullshit in the rear too, like all your online training. We're not above that in SF. All the stupid shit you got to do, it allows you to do all that really cool stuff that you get to do. So I think it's a pretty good balance, pretty good trade off. Like if you join the Army not thinking you're going to do a bunch of dumb stuff, like you were fooling yourself, like no, just you're going to do some really stupid shit. That's okay. You know that coming in, you're going to do some stupid shit, but you get to do some really badass stuff because you did that stupid stuff. No, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, all of the stupid online courses I had to do in the regular army, I still had to do them when I got to SF. Even if you didn't think you would have to do them, you still had to get it done because the big army had to have its little
Yeah.
tracker green instead of red. You learn about that, but uh, my worst day, in special forces or in the regiment or whatever, was still better than any stupid day I was getting yelled at for not cleaning the shitter at the 75th Fires in Fort Sill, Oklahoma,
Yeah.
or being told I was a shitbag because I had food poisoning. So, um, uh, yeah, there's some good shit. There's some stupid shit, but man, it's fucking fun. Like I said, I'll go back tomorrow. Sign me up. Um, I already looked into that. Can't go back. But and I don't mean rinse and repeat. I do that. I guess as SF guys and other times, we minimize all of this variable crazy shit, and we just go, oh, I went out, deployed here and came back, and I went to school, and you
Me
just
too.
use
Yeah.
like minimal term. We minimize everything, but then when
Uh-huh.
you look into it, which you did really well, it's, oh, I went and did this crazy thing, and then I came back, and I went to
Yeah.
this crazy school that nobody's ever heard of, and but we just we just use minimal terms like, oh, I went to a school, I came back, and then I went on leave, and then I deployed again,
Mm-hmm.
and we do that all the time, and guys will do that and say, and when you put it in layman's terms, it sounds really boring, but then when
Yeah.
you
Like,
break it down, you go, you were where?
mm-hmm.
That's absolutely insane. Guy I talked to yesterday. Yeah, we were in Nepal, and then we were in Bangladesh, and then I had to get over to Japan, and then I had to go back to Fort Lewis, Maine for a little bit, and then I'm back to Guam, and so like, holy shit, man. Uh, no wonder you were tired, right? And that's just normal shit. And he said, and I made a comment about this. There's no white space in your calendar. There's no real days off. And if there was white space in your calendar, somebody like me, who was the battalion tasking NCO,
Mm-hmm.
when I got a note from Sergeant Major, he'd walk over and, hey, Nick, fill this. And I go, well, this is ridiculous, Sergeant Major. He goes, I don't give a shit. Just go get somebody from Charlie Company and go send them on it. And then I'd have to go over there, and they'd find somebody who wasn't doing anything, and they'd send them on some tasking to fucking Nepal or some shit like that, or Mongolia. And that's the life, just constant. But it's fucking fun. Where
Right.
else are you
Yeah.
gonna get paid to do that shit?
Mm-hmm. Right. Nowhere else. It's
No.
it's a one of a kind place to come do amazing things.
Well, speaking of one of a kind places, you had mentioned Delta. did that selection ever enter your scope of thinking while you were growing up in group?
Yeah, I was gonna go once, and I was fairly well prepared for it, or so I thought, and then it breaking the right side of my foot and my toe by falling down the damn stairs in my house. So, and then after that, I never thought about going back again because I had a lot of friends over there. Still got a lot of friends over there, and you know, for one, I'm not sure I would have made it. It's just that's a different level of proficiency, right? Like you really like that is a competitive environment, and you have to be extremely like you're allowed the time and you're given the money and the resources to be extremely good at what you're doing, and they expect that from you. So I'm not sure I was ever quite up to that level, just as a person, for one, and for two, I really enjoyed and the Green Berets we're dirty deeds done dirt cheap, man. We don't have a whole lot of resources. Everybody thinks like, oh well, everybody's got all these resources. Like, no, we're the budget option in the SOCOM tool bag for a reason, right? We're designed to go in for a longer duration with a very small American footprint with a much larger indigenous, option, and use mostly indigenous means to accomplish whatever the problem is to solve the issue. And you want to do it without a whole lot of money, without a whole lot of resources. Like, we're like a pirate ship. We're going in there. It's like get this nasty ass pirate ship with 120 crew members that don't really shower or speak English. And you got 12 Americans on this thing and it's slow and you're going to the objective. And as you're going out there, you look over to the left-hand side and there's this nice sleek destroyer, like super expensive vessel coming by, a bunch of like super fit tan dudes flipping you off. Like that's your special mission units, like Delta going into the objective. They're going to go in. They're going to hit that target. It's going to be very proficient. They're very good. It's going to be, and they're going to leave because they're very surgical, and and they're going to be flipping us off on the way back because we're still slowly sailing in there. And then we're going to look over our right, and there's this battleship, and a bunch of again more like jacked younger dudes on there flipping us off, going in. They're going to like just annihilate. They're going to hit this target with a fist and just annihilate it, and then they come back. It's like your Ranger regiment, man. That's the if you want to fist anywhere in the world, up somebody's butt, like that's who you're going to call because that's what they do better than anybody. Like we can't do this as SF. We can't do any of those missions really as SF, right? But what we can do is be that pirate ship going in there and actually get into that target with an indigenous force and being able to stay there for a long amount of time with a minimal American footprint and little to no resources generally, and be able to accomplish this mission. And we're going to come back and it's probably going to be a lot of stuff on fire, as we're coming back, but it's going to get done, right? It's not going to be like the most precise, sexiest thing, but it's not what we're designed to do, right? That's why we speak a second language. It's why we're trained to be like, what's the old saying, or what Kevin Owens always says is, some of the most resourceful people he's ever met are poor people, right? So when you're poor like that, like you have to be resourceful and figure out other ways to do it. If you want to be that door kicker, then you can always go to the Ranger Regiment or Delta. Like we do kick indoors, but we have partners with us, right? Like when I got shot in 2013, it was only me and my medic on the ground in my element when I got shot up, and everybody else was an Afghan, right? It's like, and that's you might be out on missions where you don't see another American for days, right? It's just you and your partner force. And in Iraq, I'd be out there with my partner force with no interpreter, and I wouldn't see another American forever until I got to the limit of advance. And then once we were done, then I would link up with the other Americans, right? So that's what we're signing up to do, without a whole lot of assets. Uh, I think that's pretty sexy. So I was like, nah, I like this world that I'm in, and I'm going to stay here because I feel like I'm good at it. I enjoy it. And I just, at the time, and I, even now, like, I probably don't have the personality and the abilities that would make me successful there anyway, because that's, that's definitely a level above, where I'm at in terms of like what you need to be good at physically and just technically and tactically. And, it's a different level, and I'm okay with not being good enough at things. I wasn't good enough in the eyes of the Army to be a command sergeant major. I did one board, I didn't make it, and that was a pretty good ego check for me. I was like, damn, man, I got all these Valor awards and Purple Hearts, and like, um, but I was like thinking about, it, I was like, you know what, like I am not the right fit to be an Army command sergeant major because of my personality. I'm a pain in the ass. I wouldn't want to have to deal with me working for me. I get it. So I was like, yeah, it's probably a smart call in the military anyway. But I wasn't good enough for that, and I'm okay with that. And I don't think I would have been good enough to make Delta selection, or if I did, to probably be in the unit. I've known incredible people that have made it through selection and they get to OTC and they make it to like the last day, and they're like, hey, you did great, but you're just not the right fit for here. And if I had made it, I'd probably be in that boat too, because that's just a very precise environment. It's probably just wouldn't survive there, in my opinion.
I I've got a guy coming on later Sunday, Saturday, and probably most of the podcast is not going to be recorded because I want to learn some more stuff about it,
Yeah,
but it's
nice.
stuff you can't really tell anybody. So I'm excited for both ways. Not so much for my audience. You'll get the bits that are on Google that you can look up
Yeah,
yourself.
the watered down version.
It's I think I could have. So it's one of those things that I think about is because I think the me that was the healthy me that joined the army that has my temperament and experience now, but I got knocked out in basic training. I got knocked out in AIT. I got knocked out in combatives when I got to my unit from an uppercut going for the clinch. I can
Mhm.
still feel that pain. That hurt bad. I was in some pain. Uh, and let's see, basic. I got knocked out in selection on down pilot. The uh, pipe went up and smacked me in the
Damn.
back of the head down into the dirt. And then I go through the course. I don't know if anything happened in the course, but then I got the 3 in uh, Oregon, and I'm not the same person that joined mentally. Like I can just feel there's some little, no matter how healthy I am or how good I feel, I know that I'm not there and the things don't connect like they used to, no matter how good I get at things. But I think that brain health, Nick, combined with how I am now, and I'm still being in, would have had a decent shot at doing it. But I know
Nice.
that dream is gone from me. Uh, and But I think about it, so I'm interested in why
Learn
guys
more.
thought
Yeah.
about it or didn't think about it. So I'm excited to talk to that guy some more about that. Um, how did I mean you were a Green Beret for all of the war, were and are Green Beret for all of the war. How did your perspective on how things went and ended change during your that course, and how you grew as a leader, and your perspective on the war in Afghanistan and Iraq?
Yeah. So, man, when I get out, like I joke about, it, this is real. Like, I'm going to write some books the Army's not going to be happy about, and it's not. I'm not getting out of this disgruntled guy. I love the Army. I love my country. I will sacrifice and bleed for my country any day, and I've done that for Democratic and Republican presidents. I don't give a shit about that. I care about the idea of this nation, right? you know, but there's things like that we screwed up in those wars, not just the withdrawal. Like before that, like I think that we had this institutional arrogance where we're incapable of learning like some things. Like there was things that we're doing in these like way before the end. We're like, man, this is the same shit we were screwed up in Vietnam. But because of your arrogance, you're not listening. Like I'd be the dude on the ground who had like 8 combat deployments and a shitload of like, and I'd have some staff officer up higher who had, maybe done one pump somewhere telling me that we didn't know we were talking about. We were like, hey, this is what's going on. This is kind of what needs to happen. Like, no, no, it's too bad that you're this, incompetent or uneducated NCO. That's not how this works. I don't necessarily like, I'm telling you, this is how this works. And then they make a dumb decision that wouldn't work. We go all the way back to like, hey, like hearts and minds, like stop wearing sunglasses because the reason we're losing the war is they can't see your eyes. Like, man, you're a
Or
fucking
you got
idiot.
writing, or you got writing on your gloves.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
stupid. Like, it's all these dumbass, ego driven decisions by people, right? It, and because, like, at the end, like, some of the things that really irritated me at the end of the pullout is, uh, man, I actually personally like the guy that was coming down saying this. I think he's a great leader, but the army itself, like, our leaders are coming down telling us, like, hey, you guys need to get over this. You should be emotional about it. It's like, bro, I fought in these wars for 20 years. Like, I've got 3 Purple Hearts. I have died on the operating table there. I have been with my friends who have died. I have buried many others. But anything I do in life, I'm going to take pride in it. Anything I do in life, I'm putting my name on. I'm going to take pride in it. Like, why would I not be a little upset about this? was something that I've dedicated this much time to, regardless if it needed to happen or not. Like, quit saying that stupid shit. But then they kept saying, like, well, we couldn't have done it any better. Like, what an arrogant, tone deaf thing to say. Like, if we just take the pull out aside, right? We just go back many years and they're like, there's plenty of shit we could have done better, man. We're humans. We screwed things up. But because we lack the ability to have a little bit of humility as an institution or as a nation with something like that, and be like, you know what? Let's actually truly deep dive all this stuff that we probably screwed up and let's learn some lessons from that. For some reason, we can't do that. We got to, it's just the same thing with and I can say this on this, and I haven't said this one out loud to anybody before, but it's probably inappropriate for some. I'm sure the PO be like, oh, I can't say this. I call it the the two dick issue. It's called the two dick issue with how we do things in the military, where like we kind of talked about, like you if you go to sit call, like all of a sudden you're a turd, right? So at no point in time can you outwardly be honest with yourself by like, hey man, I need to work on this. Like you always got to be sucking your own dick. Because you get caught not sucking your dick, like, oh, something's wrong with that dude. Like, no, I'm the best. I'm not ever gonna take care of myself. Like, and you got to do that when you're doing your sit reps and everything too. Like, I can never send a sit rep to hire and be like, hey guys, like, this is the stuff we're doing good, but we kind of screwed this up and we need to work on this stuff. Like, oh, you guys suck. Like, you can't do that. So you always got to be like, but then also with your boss, like you can't ever correct them, right? You can't be like, hey, I think this is stupid. So you always got to have their dick in your mouth too, right? So it's like if anybody's looking at you, if you're not doing this, and they're like, oh, something's wrong with that dude, right? The same thing when you go to a board, right? If you go to a promotion board, like not a promotion board, but like when you're like these newer things where you actually go in front of like an external board of people, like if you're honest, say, hey man, I've been getting mental help and stuff like this, like that will negatively affect you. You can't be like showing them the kimono and being honest with like, nope, hey, I'm doing all these great things. So you're always fluffing up like, hey, there's all the great things I'm doing. And that's one of the reasons why like we ended up where we did in Afghanistan is because every sit rep you ever read is all the great things everybody's doing. That's not real. There's all kinds of fucked up shit going on. Let's be honest with it and just work on fixing those things, right? Like stuff like that. So my perspective going through the wars was like, hey man, like we're doing a lot of great things. And I don't remember like losing too many tactical battles. I think the military, like, like truly like that was like a show of like some of the stuff that like incredible stuff, like this mind blowing, like it's unbelievable, right? Like, and the accomplishments. But like when you put it all as a whole, like the arrogance and the ego that led to us getting to where we were is just, man, if we don't learn those lessons, we're gonna do it again, man. Like, and it's that kind of changed, like actually seeing like, okay, like, yeah, we are badasses in the military, but like a lot of this stuff could have been avoided, if it wasn't for like somebody in charge that had the humility to realize that, you know what, I probably just need to shut the fuck up and listen, right? Stop transmitting, go into receive mode, take in all this information, not think I'm smarter than everybody else because I'm probably not, and then make a decision once I'm armed with actual information from people that actually know what they're talking about, right? But that never happens. It's like, you see it with GOs all the time, and they love just to transmit. It's like, no, man, what you need to do in that position is you need to shut up because you are the decision maker. Get what you need, think about it, and then make an actual decision, right? Instead of kicking the can down the road like we always see. But yeah, so I think we did great as a military. I'd do it again. I don't have any regrets with that stuff, but I do think that, we need to take some solid, we need to take some time to look at all the things that we did screw up and just learn from. We don't be like, oh yeah, we suck. Like, no, hey, like these are stupid. How do we mitigate ever doing this stuff again in the future? But I don't know. We can't seem to do that. So that's kind of where I've been with the war. Like, I don't regret it. I go back, obviously, but yeah, that's kind of.
Yeah, none of that shit ever gets passed up, right? It's always positive, positive, positive.
And nothing in life
And
is that positive. Like every day as humans, I know every day when I wake up, I am wrong somewhere, right? And generally, it's going to take somebody else because our egos protect us to point that out. And I got to be open enough to be like, you know what, you're right. I am wrong here, right? But that's no different as a leader. Like it's the same thing. You're a human being. You are, incredibly fragile, incredibly like just, you know, it's okay to be wrong and do stupid stuff. That's what we do, man. We're humans.
mm,
But since we can't accept that, and then when your leadership is like, oh no, I got to be this dude, like, no, man, I expect you to make decisions. I expect you to like, be in shape and be pretty hard, but I also expect you to like make good decisions based off having some humility and not thinking that you got to be this being that's just such a badass, because that's what happens. Like, you'll see really good leaders, or once they start huffing their own oxygen and they really just start believing their own hype, that's when they start going downhill. And a lot of times they'll promote them because the Army's going to they love to promote like very safe individuals that, a lot of times like, oh, we got to mitigate all this risk. Like, no, no, no. You've never seen a sports team win a game that just mitigated risk. Like, you have to find acceptable risk. Like, that's how you win a game. Like, winning takes risk. It's not just, you want to mitigate as much risk as you can. We're really trying to find like, how much risk can we take that's acceptable in order to get the desired end state that we have? And that's one of the things that we ran into in the wars. Like, everybody was just trying to mitigate risk. Like, okay, well, you need to find acceptable risk, or else you're going to end up in a stalemate, or you're going to lose.
Perry Blackburn was on, and he said we never should have turned Afghanistan over to the regular army. SF should have handled that entirely itself. Special operations, SOCOM should have handled that. What do you think of that?
I mean, the reality is it was kind of like the major command structures were always going to be OTAN of their NATO and non-soft forces, right? So like, I would say that in the beginning of the war, when you didn't have any IEDs and it was mostly special operations on the ground running it, uh, it was a lot more effective. When you started like the surge and you pushed massive amounts of conventional forces in there, that's kind of where, at that point in time, it wasn't, we kept saying Afghan run. Well, no, it's just a bunch of Americans on the ground doing shit. It's always like, I don't care what country you go into. It's probably going to end the same way when you have a massive influence like that. So yeah, I agree. But on the flip side, like, we always had conventional support where we were, and we wouldn't have been able to do that. We wouldn't have been able to do our jobs without them. So I think it needed to be a mix. I think that the overall command structure, though, I think it would have been beneficial to have people in charge that could think outside the box. Like, I think you run a lot of problems too when you have like people that spent way too much time, or they spend a lot of time in a special mission unit. So that's the way they think. Come over and try to do, kind of like the UW type thing. It's hard to get out of that, right? Like, I couldn't go, like, even though I was an infantryman, like, I couldn't just go and lead infantrymen in a way that would be, great for them without a lot of relearning, right? Same thing. I couldn't go and do a precision type of mission because I've never done that. I just screw it up. I don't know. That's really not answering your question. Like, I don't know. I think that a lot of times we'll put special operations people in leadership positions that they themselves can't like do. So I think it's relative, man. You see a lot of people that, I mean, they were very successful at a lower level in their very awesome unit, but then you put them up in the next leadership position too, and they kind of suck, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it could have gone both ways. You could put it had soft in charge of the whole thing and still went to shit. But again,
Well, everybody else that's gone in there, it went to shit for them as well, too. So,
yeah,
um,
historically, I mean,
uh,
shit, you can read Churchill's book. It's called the Malacan Field Force, and he's talking about stuff that happened in the 1800s. And you read it, and they're in Pakistan, but like when you read it, you're like, this is just exactly like one of my experiences in Afghanistan, right? The same mistakes they made, the same, like, I think if you just took the movie The Outpost or that book and you compared it to the Malacan Field Force, you'd be like, it's basically the same damn story. It's just, 100 something years difference. Like, wow.
well, as in history and newspapers, only the names and dates change. The actions are exactly the same.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
How was it taking a team? Getting pinned E8, taking a team. How was that?
Oh, it was awesome. Luckily, I had the good fortune of taking a team as an E7 first. So when I became an E8, I was a little bit better prepared. I didn't make as many mistakes. Being an E8 is the greatest. Well, being an E8 in special forces, that's where it's at. Like, if you could stay there your entire career, it'd be awesome. But the reality is, like I was telling one of my friends who he was a junior guy on my team when I was a team sergeant. When he became team sergeant, like, hey man, it's gonna be great. But about the 3 year mark, man, you're like mentally, you're going to be going super hard and you're going to be really burnt out. And you're going to be ready for a change. And that's true because if you're doing it right and you're going hard and you're doing it intelligently, like again, there's for the team sergeant, there's no white space. Like you should be the first one in, the last one out of the team room every day. And it will burn you to the ground and your family. It'll burn you to the ground, but it's such a great experience. It, yeah, that's where it's at, especially if, you got a team that's doing really well and you got a lot of really great people on the team. And you're always going to have a couple duds here and there, right? You got to deal with those. Got to fire a couple people. Happens, but it's super rewarding, but super exhausting at the same time. Super exhausting if you're doing it right.
What was your team's specialty?
So I was a 3-5 team. So most 3-5 teams are dive teams, but
Oh,
we were a Merops team, which I thought was way better because you have to spend a whole lot of time being dive qualified, but we had to go out and do a lot of stuff on boats and hang out in the water. And, we got to do a Merops course and, it, go to the ocean and do stuff like that. And then we get to, practice a lot of our infill methods on boats. So I thought that was really cool. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of surface swimming. But mostly we just trained for, dismounted mounted operations. And we really just focused on the basics. That was our philosophy is we're going to be really good at the basics. Everybody's going to be a subject matter expert on all your infantry doctrine and all your basic stuff that holds combat together is as far as like field manuals and whatnot. We're not too cool to be in the Army. Our philosophy was like if you're gonna say you're gonna operate outside the box, which a lot of special operations do, which you will, but first you have to be able to operate inside the box. You have to truly understand the box because a lot of times the box works. Like those answers are what you need, and then if you can truly understand that, then you can actually operate outside the box because you know what this is. If you don't understand the box first and you say you're operating outside the box, you're not operating outside the box. You're just literally pulling things out of your ass. So, right. So that's kind of our philosophy. Like just train really hard at very basic stuff. And when we're good at that, like, the little advanced stuff like that helps you out here and there, but that's going to be what we really spend most of our time on. And that was successful for us. And, you know, in fact, I'll pull this up. This is actually our team's philosophy that I didn't build this. The team built it. I don't know if you said, but we said, hey, this is what we're about: commitment, aggression, vision. Like know what we're about: fundamentals and perseverance. Right? Always keep moving, always moving forward. But we brought in again going on about sports psych. We brought a sports psych in early on, and we spent a couple weeks with him just building what is this team about. And our motto was "Luck favors the prepared," because like we're going to be prepared. Like whatever right here, commitment, sacrifice for the team through selfless service. Always bring something to the team every day, right? Push yourself, push the team to get better mentally and physically every single day. Like these are the things on there. Like this is kind of like what we're going to do. Hey, our vision, know the team, know what your own vision is. Always have you make sure your direction is clear and concise. But fundamentals, that was one of our things. Fundamentals, be proficient at your MOS. Be proficient at other people's MOSs, right? Master the basic core combat tasks. Shoot, move, communicate, render Arete is one of our for core personally, and then understand the application of SF core tasks. UW, special reconnaissance, and actually know what those meanings are. So when we walk into a room and we're talking about these things to other people, like we're also educated. We got the experience, but we're also educated on the book knowledge, so we can get what we need when we walk into a room, or we can apply it on the battlefield. So that's kind of what we're about. But yeah, it's an amazing experience to go back to like the original question. And if I could stay young and do that, be an E8 forever, I would have done that. Right. It's much better being E8 than an E9 for sure.
That's the pinnacle, right? Because having a team and having a good team. I assume you had a good team. I went to a bad team, and I fucking hated it, and it sucked, and I had bad experience. I went to a good B team, great commander and sergeant major, and then went to on the battalion staff as well. Everywhere else I went, except I just had bad team time. And if anybody thinks that doesn't want to agree with me, I can get 5 other people on this show that'll say the exact same thing. So, but I really wish that's one thing. I wish I was on a good team with a good team sergeant and team leader, and just to have that experience because it sounds fucking amazing. Um, I was attached to good teams though, so I did get that perspective, and it really
It's pretty
was.
good. Yeah.
What was it like giving up the team though? Because you said you were a little burnt out. Did you get promoted out, or your team time was up?
Yeah. My team time was done. I'd had an extra year. Maybe an extra 2 years. I don't remember, but it was done. And then after I got shot and after I got my third Purple Heart, it was people were like, all right, Chuck's pretty much, he needs to go take a break. Uh, I was, the team was fortunate that the team starting to replace me. It's an incredible individual, far smarter than I could ever be. So the team really got lucky there, and they got a really good team starting that was able to take that team to even higher levels and do even greater things with it. So that was really cool to see that. And that, that guy, he made E9 and he's a command sergeant major now. So that's awesome. The team did great things. In fact, the team many, many years later still used all the SOPs and all the core stuff that we built because we got real nerdy and like, this is how you brief. Like, this is how, like, anytime you do X, Y, and Z, this is how you build the brief. This is how you plan. This is how you present it. They're still using the exact same SOPs and our whole like onboarding system because, our team, like, you came in as a new guy. It's a whole onboarding system where I would give your initial counseling and you get you get a stack of books from me. Like, hey, no, I'm sorry. You didn't get the books from me. I gave your initial counseling and put you on probation. And then you came in and you sat in front of all the senior members of the team, the senior board, and they gave you your stack of books. And they said, okay, this is the deal. You're only going to call people by their last name. And, you don't get a chance to call people by their first name until you proved it. At the 3-month mark, we're going to give you the team PT test, which took a week to do. Up
What
front,
was
you took it.
why did it take a week to do?
So every day was something different. Like the first day was a PT test, right? Your normal PT test. The second day, I believe, was your 1,500-meter surface swim. Day 3 was, I believe, your 12-mile ruck. I forgot what day 4 was. It was something else. I think it was like an obstacle course or something. And then day 5 was your 12-mile ruck. So it took the whole week to do. And there was
You said
certain
12
standards
mile
in
ruck
there.
twice.
Was there 2 12-mile rucks? The 12-mile ruck was on Friday, I think.
You
No,
said Wednesday as well.
I'm sorry, no. It was the RTD. The Friday was the return to duty test, the third group return to duty test. And that one involved like a caving ladder and a bunch of stuff like that. So it
Oh,
was one ruck, one return to duty test. Yeah. So
well, that's fun. I mean, it sounds fun, except for
yeah.
those. How long do you get for the surface swim? I forget.
I forgot what the standard was. I mean, it was nothing crazy. Then the whole point was like, hey guys, and you didn't get off probation until the 6-month mark. At the 6-month mark, if you made it, then we give you the team belt buckle, which could be taken away at any point in time. And you got full voting rights at the 6-month mark. At 3-month marks, you can start calling people by their first names and whatnot. You can stop just taking out the trash every day. And the whole point was to set a culture of like, hey, if you want to be in this team, like you have to be committed and you have to want to be actually excellent. And it was just setting a culture for the guys too. Like at any point in time, that belt buckle can be taken away from anybody. You can always be voted off the senior council. So really holding each other accountable, setting a culture of just wanting to be excellent for the sake of being excellent, not because we're sitting there beating our chest and we're awesome, but just holding each other accountable, wanting to be in shape, wanting to be proficient at basics, understanding that book knowledge is also important. So not overlooking that because, you had to take a 50-question test, 50-question infantry test, and you had to pass it. So it was really a cultural thing that we set for the team. And, that stayed with the team for, I don't know if they're still using it or not, but I thought it was pretty effective. Even the guys that we fired at the end of it, they're like, hey, you're right. You've invested a ton of time in me. I'm just not meeting the standard. It's time for me to go. So yeah. So
Wow.
it was like almost a self-selection type thing.
Yeah, you're always being assessed, right? It never stops once you get to group, or you're on a team, or you go to another team, or even afterwards. Now, you're still always being assessed by
Always, man.
your people you worked with, or your reputation follows you. You know that as well as I do.
Mm-hmm.
You did say, you were replaced by um, somebody smarter than you. You've had several TBI, brain injuries. Could you feel a difference as you got older in SF, the more you got hurt in your ability to process tasks and functions?
It wasn't so much when I got older. It was really when I got blown up in '08. And
I mean, at those points as you went
well,
along.
no, I think it's gotten better. Like it's just, I have to go through cognitive therapy. what I have noticed though, since I did hyperbaric oxygen therapy and I got stellate ganglion blocks, and I really devoted a lot of time towards just mental things every day and taking 10 milligrams of creatine a day, I have a lot less brain
Everyone,
fog.
everyone should. But if you're listening at home, everyone should be taking creatine.
Yeah, it's
So,
great for your, not just for like, but for your brain. It's proven. There's so much
mhm.
literature on it. Like, I take 5 milligrams twice a day of creatine, and really taking time to focus on my mind and my ability to, to do things like puzzles and other things and think through problem sets has really helped me. Like, I feel right now, like, I'm at a much higher level cognitively than I was a couple of years ago. Just spending every time of day, like reading and learning new words and doing a lot of writing. I felt like you talk about like storytelling is on here. Like there's so much power in actually saying a story and verbalizing things that you wouldn't else just by talking to yourself or writing it down. I think journaling and, I have a blog site. Um, and people publish things, and I think that's just so powerful, not just for you but other people get to read it and hear the story, so it helps them out. But I think that really helps you cognitively too. So I think once I started writing and once I really started doing like podcasts and stuff and speaking more and spending time and then doing all those other things, like I had an uptick. So yeah, I think it went downhill for a while and now I'm up here. So, but again, it's because I was like, man, I have agency over this. I can sit here and feel like I'm becoming more and more like I'm an idiot, or I can take the wheel and actually get myself to where I need to be.
Yeah, because you're the only one has to live your life, right? And take
Yeah.
advantage of all and you're still in, so you can still take advantage of the health, having to go to, I got an appointment, I gotta go to the doctor, this and all that. So
I got
it's
3 months
a lot
left.
easier.
So
Just, yeah, you'll still take advantage of it. And I'm sure you'll take advantage of it when you get out. So, but you're retiring, you're not getting medically retired.
no, and everybody's like, why don't you just medically retire? Like, well, the Army has a policy you can't get out for 6 months after a full joint replacement. I knew I wasn't going to get out until, we fixed my hips. And a lot of people, I'm going to say a lot, there's been a couple people I've like, oh, this guy was talking smack, saying you're part of the problem, holding up a slot. Like, man, I'm a known loss for one. I don't get jump pay. I don't get language pay. I don't get special duty pay. Like, I don't feel bad about fixing myself. What me and the military did on the military's time. Like, I think that I don't deserve much, but I deserve that. I'm okay with it.
And you're going to
So
write books that the military is not going to be happy about
I'm
when
gonna
you get
write
out
books,
too.
but
So
but but hopefully those will be, and I'm not gonna write them in like oh, this is all screwed up. It's gonna be like, in a way, like, hey man, let's take some of these lessons and like learn from them, because shit. I'm not about like just bad mouthing and talking smack. I'm happy with my career.
no.
I'm happy with the military, but let's do some learning, man. Let's use some critical thinking there. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's a long answer to your question.
Did you take a company as a sergeant major?
I did. I was a company sergeant major. Went to
How was
Syria.
that?
Actually, I was talking about this with one of my friends. Like, people often think that team sergeant's the hardest job. Like, man, being a company sergeant major is freaking tough, especially being in charge of like that many egos. But then, like when I was task force senior sergeant major, like, man, we had people in multiple countries. We had like 1,200 people overall that we were kind of responsible for. Like that was crazy, man. A lot of people did a lot of stupid stuff, man. I spent more time just traveling around, like taking care of other sites, because we had so many different sites in a couple different countries, like taking care of their issues and really focusing on the mission at hand, which, yeah, it's nature of the beast, but man, it's taxing. You know,
Yeah.
it's really taxing.
Um, for those listening home, the comparison. So a company sergeant major in SF, you'll have about 88 to 92 guys you're responsible for, whereas a sergeant major in the regular Army would have 400
Yeah, battalion. Yep.
around in there. Um, but we can be attached to much, much larger units, and then the sergeant major would take over as the highest ranking. That's why everything we do is one rank higher than our counterparts on the regular Army
And your
side.
teams are everywhere. As a company sergeant major, we had teams like, with some teams back, we had other teams like all over the place, right? So like, you're still like, you still have ad con of those teams, and you're still responsible for like a bunch of the crazy stuff. And then you, like, when they're having problems, they're going to call you, so then you got to get involved. Or I remember like one of my teams was doing some dumb stuff, so then I was getting calls from their higher command, like, "Hey Chuck, like, you need to take care of this problem." So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's very enjoyable, but it's taxing.
No, it's got to be crazy, especially because the mission set and all the shit you're doing, because you're doing different agencies, and then you go do a multinational training exercise, and you're dealing with all the other soft elements and other people and all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of stuff. And well, fuck, who's in charge here? And you go, shit, I'm an E9. Fuck, I'm in charge. Shit.
Yeah.
So I had an excellent carpentry sergeant major, and we're still friends to this day. And that's the only reason that I was able to stay in the Army was my commander and my sergeant major. So I owe
Nice.
everything that I got out of SF to them, because they could have gotten rid of me immediately
Nice.
once the clinic started digging into how many head injuries I had had over the past
Mm.
3 to 4 years. But I was able to stay and do some good things. So much appreciation to them, true leaders. So you're done with company time. You're done with everything. Did you have to go to battalion staff and kind of live that life? And obviously, you kind of bounced around on the staff life, because when were your company sergeant major time over?
I was over in like 21. Yeah, I went over and I was for us for SF, I was a battalion S3 sergeant major. And that's when the only actually no, I wasn't eligible for the board then. So I did my SF, I did my battalion sergeant major time, and that was great. You're an S3 sergeant major, just basically running all the preparation. Again, in a battalion, like deploying people everywhere, and um, you're having to get a whole battalion, certified for combat. And that was a really good time. I had a great staff up there. It was good. And then I went from there to be the deputy commandant at the non-commissioned officer academy, because at the time I was like, okay, I'm going to get out, and I'd already been a first sergeant at the non-commissioned officer academy, but I want to end my time being able to make an impact. And I enjoyed teaching. And I feel like a lot of people bitch about going to jobs like that, but like for our non-commissioned officer academy, it's a great place to work, because everybody from the entire formation, whether you're civil affairs, psychological operations, or a special forces guy, has to come through those doors if you want to promote. So it's a perfect place to influence the future of the force. You got direct access to go teach the captain's career course. Whatever you want to do, you can have as much of an impact as you want. So I knew I wanted to go there and retire. When I got over there, I was like, okay, well, actually, let me try out for command sergeant major. I think I'm going to be pretty competitive. So I put all my stuff together, just feeling pretty confident. I was like, man, I got 3 Valor Awards, I got 3 Purple Hearts, I got excellent in COERs. I'm a shoe in. And then the board results came out, and I was like, I wasn't on there. I was like right on the cusp. I was like, oh man. I was like, okay, well, I'm good with that, right? I'm not disgruntled. I can see why that panned out that way. And then I was like, okay, now I'm going to retire. And then I had a back fusion like right before that board, because when I got shot in 2013, one of the bullets it went through my right side of the upper back, and it rode down my back, and it broke through the arteries and the nerve complex, but it lodged in my lower back. It caused quite a bit of damage in my lower back, which caused me to use the use of my legs like a couple times a year. So got that fused, and I was like, okay, well, this should fix all my problems. And I don't know, about 6 months after the surgery, my legs still weren't working properly. I was like, man, what's going on? So we did an MRI, and they called me in a panic. They're like, hey, both your hips are dead. They're necrotic. But what's concerning to us is the left side is actually partially collapsed, and we're afraid there's a pretty high risk of infection. You can't just ignore this. We got to go in there. We got to fix these things. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not getting out of the military, because I was prepped. I was doing all my retirement paperwork, and I was like, I'm not going to get out until these are fixed. I'm probably can't get them done for like, I'll probably do them a year apart, and that was fine with me. And that was it. So that's where I ended my time, was as deputy commandant at the non-commissioned officer academy.
Just listening to it, like I'm of two minds, right? You're saying all the injuries and blown up and all this other shit that's happened to you, and part of me is like, damn, dude. And then the other half goes, yeah, that happens. Yeah, that happens too. Yeah, you're SF long enough. Yeah, that shit'll happen. That's just crazy, isn't it? We just you're throwing out all this shit that would never happen to anybody ever in their
Right.
whole
Yeah.
life, and you go, yeah, it was a rough life. My hip collapsed. I had to have emergency hip surgery, all kinds of shit. It's just like, well,
Yeah.
just another day at the office.
Yeah, same thing like the hand. Like that took forever to rebuild this hand, right? Because I had a bullet. It went through my middle knuckle, and it came out the side, so it took all the bones with it, and so it's all cadaver bone, right? That was and that's not something that people's normal. To me, it's just normal. I was like, oh
No,
yeah, I mean, they're
yeah,
like doing
normal.
deadlifts and stuff again, and then like crazy stuff. Like we talked about it before. Like, and then like at the Inso Academy, I find myself in 13 tabloids, right? Like, so then I got to overcome that crazy stuff. That's not even a physical injury. That's just madness. So yeah, I mean, and again, that's not normal for SF guys to go through all that bullshit. But for some reason, uh, life, God, like, hey man, because I'm under the mindset like embrace adversity, man. I love it. Like, give me all the bullshit. I'm gonna turn it into a win somehow. I think like God was like, all right, let's see how you turn this shit into a win. Right here's 13 tabloids to deal with. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. But we handle things differently. And last week's story, I had a cop on. The episode will come out in like a week. But he took 6 rounds in a 45-second gunfight with a. They were trying to serve an arrest warrant with a violent fugitive. He
Uh,
took 6 rounds, and I told him while we are doing the interview, I was like, I'm just sitting here going, I bet you tell this story to people, and they're just their jaws on the floor, and it's kind of a red flag for me from the community I came from, where I'm just listening, going, yeah, that sounds like a normal gunfight. Yeah, that shit happens. Um, and then I caught myself. I'm like, no, that's not normal to think that way.
yeah.
Um, but quiet professionals, right? Generally, what everybody says, and then now guys are getting out, and we're supposed to be held to that same standard of quiet professionals for whatever fucking reason, which doesn't make any sense, because if you're not making any noise when you're a civilian, nobody's going to fucking listen to you, especially in the age we're in. But while we're in, we're supposed to be quiet professionals. And some people don't take that to heart and make shit up, right, for the sake of journalism. And it sounds like that happened to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's I look at it two ways. Like the initial guy, I won't say his name. People look it up. You can ask Grok about Chuck Ritter's allegations. But I think this guy, like the person the person who went to this person for the story is like a legitimate con artist. And I don't even know this person's a female. I met her once at a bar. She yelled at me for 5 minutes for supposedly trying to ruin her then fiance's career. But really what happened is this guy had fired from Syria, who was an excellent communications guy, could be a good SF guy, but he just kept stepping on his crank. And I fired him. I was like, hey man, hopefully this like serves as an ego check for you, because I think you have the capability and the ability to be awesome, but you keep doing these stupid things all based on ego. Then I'm firing him. So anyway, so he got hooked up with this con artist, and this person's like ruined like 33 careers. I just happen to be collateral damage in her schemes against him, but um, she's like really good at making like fake texts and stuff, like crazy stuff. Like when I dug into it, like because I talked to like a lot of her victims still, because there's like a whole little chat support group, and she does the same. She just rinse and repeat to all of them. Like she plays like she's her dad. She'll start like a whole fake text with them from like another phone, and like playing as her dad. In this case, her dad was a retired 7th Group Command Sergeant Major who worked at USASOC, and he was trying to help this guy because this guy gets him in trouble, but this Chuck Ritter was like so powerful and like stopping everything, right? Like, so she had this soldier convinced that I was like going after his career. And really what was happening is she was feeding all this information to the command that kept getting him in trouble, right? Like I had nothing to do with it. Like I haven't talked to this dude at the time. So anyway, like she with this guy reached out to this journalist, and I'm sure he believed the story up front, but I felt like I gave him enough evidence, like this bullshit. Anyway, so he published a story. And then a month later, I wake up and I'm like 13 other tabloids, right? The Daily Mail. I'm like, holy shit. And the Army did an investigation on it. It was pretty short lived. It was less than a month long. And she's on tape, like admitting to like fabricating this stuff. And what was odd, like way after the investigation was done, like this dude who then at that point knew his story is bullshit. Like he was like taking swipes at me online. But crazy stuff kept happening. One day I'm in my office and this investigator comes in. This is like 9 months after this happens. This investigator comes in. He's from a special mission unit. He's like, hey, he's like, you don't know me, but I know who you are because I've had to read some of your stuff. And that girl that you know, like she's going after this other soldier. I'm like, who? And he's like, he says her name. I'm like, I don't know who that is. He's like, no, you know her by this other name, which was an alias. But this girl that the tabloids, like she's doing the same thing to a guy in the special mission unit. I'm investigating it. I was like, oh shit. I was like, can I get all the stuff from your investigation? I'm like, yep, here it is. Showed him. And he's going through all this stuff like on my computer. He's like, this is criminal, man. This person's a con artist. Like, this is like the fifth person that I've seen that she's done this to. I'm like, oh crap, okay. So like a month after that, I'm in the ops room, and my beat, or the not the B team ops, but the NCOA ops sergeant comes in. And he's like, "Hey, Sergeant Major." He's like, "That girl." He's like, "What girl?" He's like, he went over. He's like, "Oh yeah, the con artist girl." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I think she's trying to like scam my tattoo artist, because I was getting a tattoo, and I'm 99% sure it was her, and this is what was said." And I was like, "That's crazy." And I got this feeling like, "Hey, Chuck, you got to reach out to this soldier that at the time, like I was like, man, this guy legitimately tried to destroy my career." I was like, that is crazy. There's no way I'm doing that. It's dumb. And something else happened, like this other thing. I'm just trying to like stay away from the situation. Like, nope. Like, what else happened? I can't remember what it was. Somebody reached out to me or something. I'm like, man, it's too much crazy. Like, nope. Hey, you were gonna reach out to this dude. And every time I try to rage against it, like it's like this internal feeling, like God was telling me this is what you're gonna do. So one day I was like, miss, I'd already told everybody, and they're like, hey, this is stupid. Don't reach out to this guy. So I reached out to this guy, and he immediately texted me back. He's like, man, it's crazy. This morning, he's like, I was praying to any higher power. Like, I'm like on the verge of suicide right now. Like, give me a sign, dealing with this female who's like taking all my money and everything. And the last person I ever expected to reach out to me would be Chuck Ritter. And he's like, he's like, when you fired me, man, you told me that you thought it would serve as an ego check. And at the time, I just took it as like personal affront, like you're just trying to screw me over. He's like, you were right, man. He's like, it was definitely my ego was the problem. And now I'm in this situation, and coming to find out, like, she's a con artist. So I ended up coming over and like going through this wild story that was completely unbelievable, talking about her playing her dad and all these fake texts and all this stuff. I was like, this sounds completely unbelievable. So he's like, well, you don't have to believe me, but contact these people. So I contacted some of her other victims, and it was like these wild ass stories that I can't even explain. Like, they're so like faking like she's in bank robberies and like attempted murder, like trying to kill this one dude with her car, and like putting people in prison, like absolute madness, right? I'm like, wow. And then like after like the eighth person I talked to, I'm like, I started writing it all down. I'm like, this is some crazy stuff. So I ended up sending all that stuff over. Like, I was trying to get this stuff removed offline without like paying a ton of money to do a lawsuit, right? Because you're talking like $40,000 if you're going to do a liable lawsuit. My lawyers are like, you could very well win this, and you get $1. So you spend all this money. So there's probably a better way to do it. So I was like, all right, well, obviously the Army concluded that this is bullshit, but still online, he got all this stuff. So this journalist I was introduced to said, hey, I want to write a story on this. So he did his own investigation, his own in-depth investigation. And, he wrote a story about it. And then another guy, named Anthony Anderson, he runs the Stolen Valor site. He was like, man, I want to dig into this. So he dug into it. I was like, man, don't believe me. Like, I gotta be completely full of crap. Like, come to your own conclusions, talk to all these people. So both of them put a lot of pressure. So we spent no money on lawyers, and they put so much pressure online. We like gathered an army, like 500,000 people, right? On this one author's parent company and the Daily Mail and others, that they ended up just taking the articles offline, or putting like if you Google my name in Daily Mail, it comes up like, hey, this individual actually provided sworn statements after the fact saying it was all fabricated, and this is what the Army concluded, whatnot. Um, but to this day, the original journalist, he now claims he didn't write an article, right? Like I showed you earlier. I don't know what I did. Anyways, he threatened to sue me for the shit he did to me. Like the ultimate gaslighting. What did I do with it? Anyway, I got his cease and desist letters framed, because in there his lawyers say like, our client, as you know, wrote an article about you, but now he posts like he never wrote an article. He's never apologized. Which is like, hey man, like, you're human. You screwed up. You probably didn't need to take swipes at me the next year when you knew it was all bullshit. But yeah, now you just blocked me on social media. And but man, I got the rest of my life to talk about this, right? And what's cool about the soldier too, like I think it's a good news story, because I was outside the courthouse with that soldier that had a part in me being in all those, and he was like, man, he's like, you were right about the ego thing, and the reality was he was like, oh, it's really no different than this girl. He's like, I couldn't accept responsibility for my own actions. There was no accountability there. He's like, and it really took me hitting rock bottom, and going through all this to really learn that, because he lost his SF tab, he got kicked out of the Army. He's like, that's all me, man. Like, I can't blame anybody else for that. Like, I have to own my actions, and and it's deserved. He's like, I get it. I get why this happened, and that was on me. And that was cool. That's cool to see. Like, I even hired him. He started this construction company with his son, because he does other stuff too, but just to spend more time with his family. Hired them to do some work on a rental property. Man, they rebuilt the deck and stuff. And it's not somebody I like hang out with or I have beers with, but you know, the command, like we were talking about this earlier, like, they told me like, hey, don't interact with any of this, like, because they're going to protect themselves. Like, oh no, I know what the rules of the game are. Like, I can defend myself publicly, and I'm going to do that. But they even told me like, hey, you shouldn't be investing in this guy. And I was like, well, why not? Like, like, personally, I'm a Christian. I don't judge anybody by whatever their belief is, but I know in the book of Luke, it talks about the parable of the lost sheep. And it says, hey, that one lost sheep is more important than the 99 that are already saved. And then, it goes further in the book of John where it's like, no, it's your job to take that risk to go save somebody who needs to be saved. And not that I say that guy saved himself, right? I gave him a little help in some ways, but it's our job as people to invest in people, even if it's risky, man. Like I firmly believe that you should be willing to risk everything and burn in and go through incredible suffering, doing what you believe is the right thing to do. That's the way I live my life in combat. Like, it's why I got shot. Like, the first time I got shot, I was fighting out into a close ambush to try to save a wounded Afghan who was caught in the kill zone, and we got him out, right. And it was worth that damage. Second time I got shot, the best bad decision we could make was moving into fortified enemy machine gun positions, right? That we landed in. We landed in a shitty situation, right, where we didn't have an aircraft. Like, this, we have to move into this, and I got shot in the process, but it was worth it. We ended up dominating the battlefield. But back here, it's the same way. Like, man, if the right thing is worth taking risk and suffering through, even if it's catastrophic to you, because that's how you should live your life. And again, it's finding acceptable risk. You don't do some stupid stuff. Like, courage is all about finding the balance between being a coward and being reckless, right? It's a balance. It's not just all in. But I think so. That was like, now it's just funny to me. Like, after being all those tabloids, it's turned into a win, right? It was good for the soldier. Like, I've got really no negative. No, at this point, I've gained so many relationships from it and made so many friends, and so much good has come from it. Like, I don't regret that either, but it's still silly. And like, there's ways, if you're a soldier, like, to get around. Like, you can go defend yourself, man. If somebody tells you you can't do that, know the rules of the game, know what the rules and regulations are for social media and whatever else, and follow those. But yeah, man, go defend yourself. People are like, why don't you sue them? Like, a lawsuit, litigation takes money. Telling the truth,
Yeah.
I got the whole rest of my life to talk about this. Like, and to me, it's a story worth telling, because one, as a leader, you should invest in people that are kind of jacked up. But two, in the military, I mean, you can defend yourself publicly. Like, don't listen to that crap. Commands are always going to try to cover their own ass, which, we can debate whether they should or not with that. But, it's like, no matter how good even somebody with many valor awards, like, they don't care. They're gonna take care of themselves. It's up to you. So again, you got to take the wheel and make sure that you're clearing that stuff up. And if you got somebody in the same situation, like, turn that shit into a win, man. Like, yeah. So that's it. Like, went through all this crap. Still have a positive outlook. Still love the Army. It's been great. Do it all over again. Even through all the madness, I do all that shit again. And I'm getting out pretty fulfilled.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
pretty happy with it, man.
What's the objective project you're working on now?
So, Objective Arete. It's a company I am the director of operations of. My business partner owns Hatchet Brewing Company here locally. He's a West Point graduate. He was actually a special forces officer in the company I was in. He came to me last year. He's like, "Hey, Chuck," he's like, "I know you got other stuff going on, right? You're getting out. You have a consulting company and some other stuff." He's like, "But I've got this idea, man. I want to start this peer mentorship program to where we can really help other people." So we started playing around with it. We're like, "Okay, well, we like this word called arete, which is an older Western philosophical word that has to do with excellence, but not like just being good at something, but excellence through virtue, to where you build habits into your life. So you're being selfish. You're going to devote time into self-development, intentional self-development and learning, so that you can be a more valuable and better human being. So you have the ability to now impact others in a positive way. So everything that you're doing is for you, but you're doing it so you can impact your friends, your family, your community, and society in a positive way too, because now you're a more valuable human being and you're going to help other people actually accomplish their mission too. So yeah, I believe that if you truly believe that you're an unstoppable force of nature in life, that you will be, right? There's plenty of shit I can't control. I can't control an airplane like crashing into my house, killing me, but I can control everything that's within my span of control. Like, it's like the serenity prayer. It's like, God, please grant me the serenity to know the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? So I think that's kind of what we're doing with this company. Is we're in like just we haven't launched any like really products or services yet. That'll happen after I'm out of the military. But right now we've got a podcast, and we've got an online journal, a blog, and it's all geared towards providing. We're on our journey of learning. We're going to provide everything that we know, everything that we learn, all of our failures and the failures of others to others. So you can come on our journal. It's all like dedicated towards if it's spiritual, mental, physical, fortitudinal, financial, self-awareness type things. Like we got our domains on there. Like we're publishing content that has to do with that. So you can go and anything that might help you be a better human being. That's what we're trying to do with the podcast. We go and learn from experts. Like I don't claim to be the best leader. I don't know. There's some people that have written books where they did like 1 or 2 combat deployments and suddenly they know everything there is to know about leadership and everything else. I've been on 12 combat deployments. I don't claim to know anything about anything, but what I do have is a lot of really smart people in my network that I learn from constantly. If you look at our board of advisors, man, it's like, the lead mental performance coach for the Philadelphia Phillies, Tim Jensen from Gruntstel, Matt Eversman from Black Hawk Down fame, right? He's a friend of mine. In fact, he put me in a book. I was in a James Patterson book recently where shit, I'm all over the back cover and inside the book. I learned from those. And then I like to share that with other people and like share my failures. Like, hey, man, here's all the stuff that I screwed up. Live vicariously through me and maybe learn something from that. So that's what we're trying to do. And in the summertime, we're going to offer a community. We'll have a subscription where you can be part of a community, but more importantly, we'll have like courses where they're going to be in depth. It's not going to be like, we're trying to get away from like the weird grifter stuff. Like you're going to have to dedicate some time to yourself. But if you're going to take one of our courses, you're going to dedicate about 3 months to self-development. And we're going to bring in experts. You're going to deal with professionals in their fields, and you're going to do a lot of self-evaluation, and you're going to do a lot of writing and talking. And then we're going to learn how the body works, like physically, like, how does the body work? Like, what does it mean if I say strength endurance, if I say aerobic capacity, or I say work capacity? Like, what does that mean? What is lactate threshold? What is VO2 max? What is heart rate variability? Like how the body works, how the mind works, how, everything kind of works together to where, you know, people can program out their life in a way that helps them to achieve their goals. So that's what we're going to do in the summertime. But right now, man, we got a podcast. It's good. We just released our 5th episode. We're sitting down with we've got a lot of episodes recorded. And again, I don't expect to have like a huge fast growth curve because I'm not offering the secret to success because I don't have that. But if people want to invest, time into themselves with intentional lifelong self-development, help others, like check us out. Like, the website has our journal on there. We've been releasing about 3 or 4 articles a week now. If you feel like writing, like please write for us. Could be a simple story. I found like you said, like people coming on podcasts on their story is helpful for them. It's powerful. So is writing. You have to be a great writer. We got an awesome editor in chief. He'll help you sound intelligent. So by all means, hit us up on there and, reach out to us. And look at our website and tell us how we can do our job better. Like, we're trying to figure out how do we accomplish this. What I told the business partner coming is like, look, man, this can't ever be a money making scheme because I've got other income. I don't need this to be a money making scheme. In 5 years, if we've helped 300 people and I put $15,000 into this, I'm fine with that. It's success to me, like legitimately help 300 people. And in 5 years, if this exists, it's got a brick and mortar and we're actually being able to pay the people on our team and it's got a staff and maybe I'm making like $20,000 a year off of it. That's also success because I see all this weird, like people are paying lots of money for the secret to success from all these people out there. I don't think that's a thing. It's kind of just changed the culture too. Like, hey, man, let's just make being good human beings cool again. Like work on that. Like, yeah, be selfish, but do it for selfless reasons. Help your buddies out, right? Let's change the narrative of mental health. Like, no, it's just normal, man. You're human. Like mental performance, mental wellness is a thing. Yeah, you can't ignore it. Like just make it part of your daily conversations type of thing. So that's where that's going. So
You can tell right away when you talk to somebody if they really want the best for you, you know? Um, when I talk to people, I truly just want to help the guys or the gals that were in our lifestyle have the best for them. Because we've all gone through shit times and the guys that get out and then keep this service to uplift everybody out, it's great, right? And start these things. And the ones that are humble, like, fuck, I don't, you just said, I deployed all these times. I don't know shit about fuck. Yeah, the best guys are going to say that. I don't know anything about anything, and I don't claim to. I never want to comment. I don't know shit. All my experience is hearsay and stories, right? Um, I saw this trailer, or it was like a promo for one of Grant Cardone's entrepreneur seminars, right? The 10x your business. And in a stadium, it made me think of what like mega churches are now with the banners and the fog thing going off. And I said, it just looks like they've lost the mark. Like, what market are they marketing themselves to now? Whereas you get a small company that has a really defined goal of this is what we want to do, but it doesn't, it's not all flashy and science, but that's where you're going to get the most growth is from these real professional people with this real professional product. But everybody's attention is over here on the shiny
Mm-hmm.
thing.
On the
What do
flashy
you
stuff
guys?
that people are like, ah, like, yeah.
Yeah, look at me, look at me. How do you pull people in and show them the way?
Our goal right now is we launched like our website and our podcast early because we want, without doing a ton of marketing, because I don't, it's got, one of our things is like I have 12 like personal values, but my top three personal values that I will never personally, that I will never like do things to counter are courage is one, authenticity and humor. And for what we're doing, maybe not the humor parts, but the authenticity, like it's got to be authentic. Like even our social media, like we're just trying to grow that. We're trying to we're trying to gain like a following, obviously, but for the right reasons. And we want it to be authentic and organic. So, until Greg's like, hey, our growth curve is gonna be super, super like shallow. It's not gonna be very big because we're not flashy. We're not gonna be offering the secrets of success, and we're not gonna push a ton of money into marketing. Like eventually we will, like when we got some bigger things to offer where we're like, okay, well, we actually have the capacity, right? Because the first class we're running is going to be 25 slots, and it's mostly handpicked people, and they're going to help us actually refine the course. They're going to be the plank holders, and then after that, we're probably going to offer a max 50 seats. Is probably what we can do right off the bat until we offer just the online portion. If you want to do self paced, they'll be able to do that eventually. But starting off is all going to be like, no, you get these personalities, right? You get the people, you get the experts when we're going through this stuff. So we just won't have the capacity, but I want to build a community of people. Like, even if you're not in the courses, but you want to subscribe to this community of people. It's all about self development, but helping others develop and like sharing your failures. And I think we need to bring about like, man, be proud of your stuff, be proud of your accomplishments and brag about them all. That's not a bad thing, but then brag on others too, man. Like, other people's successes aren't taken away from your success. So be proud of what you're doing, brag about it online, whatever, man. Share that with people. And you should be proud of other people when they're doing that if it's for the right reason. Like there's always people out there you're like, okay, well, like you're just grandstanding to the grandstand, right? But bring that back, like a community of people, like, and then call and holding each other accountable. Like, hey man, you said that you were gonna do this thing. You said you were gonna like, lose 20 pounds. Like, where are you at with that? Like let's talk about why you're not getting there and like, calling people on that and being and doing it in a way that's conducive to growth, not just being an asshole. Uh, so that's what we're doing. So we're on social media. Our website's www.objectivearete.com. We got the journal on there, man. Check, people can check that out. Our emails are on there. We got a newsletter that goes out biweekly where we put like, our events and our latest podcast and our thoughts. And again, like, we're not trying to make money with this. Eventually I get to a point to where I can pay the editor in chief and the podcast host and get somebody that's doing all the editing. Cause right now I'm producing everything. So it's a matter of time because I'm still in school, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm going to go for my master's, and then I actually have, besides the other stuff that I have, because I got a couple different LLCs, like another job that I'm going to be doing. So it's a lot. So if I could have some people that could take some of that off my plate, that would be rather awesome. But yeah, and we want to create like what I noticed getting out when I was talking to all these different executives and people in these companies, because I was through this program. It's one of the things you had to do. You had to do 50 cups of coffee for the Honor Foundation, talking to people in the industries. Like a lot of them are like, hey, I don't like hiring special operations people. I don't like hiring, people that are higher ranking in the military because they're not curious anymore. They want to get out and they're entitled. They think they've made it. They think they've done it. And they think they deserve this thing. It's like, I'm hiring you because I want you to bring something to my company. I don't really give a shit what you did yesterday. What are you bringing to the table today? We want to create that culture. Like, hey, stay curious, man. Like, and be okay with being in that cycle of incompetence to competence, right? Like this next job I'm going to do, I'm going to be I don't know anything about it. Have to learn so much. I'm really excited about just being in a place where I don't know anything and I have to put forth a lot of effort in order to become competent. It's a cool place for me. I think we're missing that in society where people like to be comfortable. They like to sit online and be know-it-alls about stuff they really know nothing about. It's like, Nah, man, like actually like take some time and invest in learning and be okay with not knowing what you're talking about. So yeah. So that's
Yeah.
check out our podcast, check out, your podcast and our podcast. We're not competing because we're in completely different sectors of what we're trying to do. So that's cool. Um,
mine
um,
are a little bit longer. Yours are a little bit more digestible.
yeah, a little bit
Um,
shorter. So yeah,
But
it's,
that's what
it's,
it is, right? That's the community. Like I'll have people on the show and we'll have a long fucking conversation and then they'll see your thing and then they'll go see, oh, let me check this out. But that's what it is. And that's one point you made is, we're not in competition. The market's
mm-mm.
pretty big, and
Yeah.
there's only when you look at it, there's only a few guys doing things. Like I'm the newest guy to show up to do this thing, but I'm a little fish. It's a big fucking ocean of people
Mm-mm.
out there. I just got to get people to see that I'm trying to raise my hand right now.
Right.
Hey, look over here. I got interesting people saying some interesting
Right.
shit. Um, and
And
just
you'll get
one
there.
thing at a time.
All right. You keep doing what you're doing. You stay, you stay consistent and you stay dedicated. Like, most podcasts fail because people just give up.
At
Right? Don't give up.
4 episodes, I think 50% of podcasts have 4 episodes or less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so I'm ready to burn it down. But you did say one thing there is, yeah, we don't hire special forces or high ranking military. And I could tell you why. I don't fucking want to listen to anybody ever again in my whole fucking life. And when I do go work at a job, I hate it because I just don't like the attitudes or the how people carry themselves or the way they are. But I have been shitty in my civilian life as I got out. But the more I get further away from that, I cannot stand how people take care of themselves and how they carry themselves and things like that. So I'm going to try to never put myself in that situation again, even though I'll have to supplement here with this. But I'm going to do my best for me. So I understand that attitude 1,000,000%.
Yeah. It was interesting getting out and learning, like, oh, shit. Okay. That's interesting. And like, most guys getting out, like, if the ones that are humble, like we're talking about, and can sell themselves well and not sell themselves predicated on bullshit, but like actually sell what they can actually bring, man, they get jobs right away. Like I've now turned down more job offers than I'd ever thought would happen. Right. And I was like, nah, man, I'm already set. That's been pretty cool. And that's just because I think like when I'm talking to people, I'm authentic. I'm not trying to sell some
Yeah.
bullshit. They're like, damn, this is somebody I think that should go work over here. So shit, I got a job offer up at West Point, making $150,000 a year for a job that would have been perfect for me, but it just didn't line up with timing, so I had to turn that down. But that would have been awesome because I enjoy mentorship and dealing with young officers.
That
So
would be a cool role,
yeah,
to just continue to do it. Oh, that
that would
that
have been
sounds
really awesome.
that does sound pretty cool.
If I would have got that offer like next year about this time, it would have been perfect. But nah, it just didn't line up right now. So
Well, you never know what's going to happen
unfortunately,
in 12 months, right? So,
yeah, well,
yeah.
see what happens. I
I
think hopefully Objective Arete like gets to where the vision has it. It's going to take a while. And more likely I'll just transition most of my time over to that because that's really where it's at. I like learning. I like helping other people achieve greatness in life. I like
yeah,
helping other people achieve way. I always like it when I see people that were under me or see people I served with like make it higher than I did or achieve more. Man, that's just a great thing to see other people just crushing it. And I get a dopamine hit off. They're like, damn man, that guy really. Like, and some people like they look at it like it's like a oh man, like, well, how come I didn't make it? It's like, who gives a shit, man? Like that person being a badass isn't taken away from you being a badass. Just you be
no.
also be proud of him and be proud of your shit.
I like having people on the show and then seeing the results, even though they're little bits right now, the results of them coming on, and hopefully we can get big. I'd like that for the guys, for them that won't talk about themselves because it's difficult getting out to talk about yourself. But I'll
Yeah,
fucking
it's
do it.
hard.
I'll talk about you on here for 4 hours if you let me, or I'll have you step to your life story. I'll lead you in a way where I'll get you to talk about yourself. Because guys won't do it. They won't make any noise. They won't tell you how awesome they are, even though they wrote a book or even though they've got this speaking thing going on.
Yeah,
But you got to do that. You got to have somebody force you into it and like show you the way. And I'm not saying I'm the best at it, but I can have you on there. I'm okay at this. I can lead you in a way
yeah.
to make you say some things that you wouldn't come up with all on your own. But at least I'm getting better at it. I hope.
Yeah,
But hey,
it's
I
healthy
got
too.
yeah, it's not destructive. But I got 5 questions I ask everybody if you're ready.
Let's do it.
What is your response to thank you for your service?
Man, that's always a weird one for me, right? I never know what to say. Because to me, like I said, like shit, man, I'm pretty spoiled in the military. I just now said, I always look at them, shake my hand, shake their hand, say thank you, appreciate that. So
Yeah.
I don't know, or I like, yeah, you're right. Thank you for my service. Now I say that.
You're welcome for my
Yeah,
service.
you're welcome for my service. You should give me $5.
Yeah, yeah. Or you have the flashbacks of 130-degree porta shitter, and so um, people have picked that question apart way more than I thought they would. I've gotten some really long answers on that, so that's why I stayed in there. I really enjoy it. All right, what is the one characteristic that sets operators apart from conventional forces?
The one,
If you had to pick one,
probably adaptability. That's the one. Being able to take any circumstance, any adversity, and be creative enough to overcome it with nothing. I think that's probably the you combine that with intelligence and some personal courage. I think that makes you an unstoppable force of nature. I think that's what the Q course breeds in us is your ability to do impossible things with nothing. Right. So yeah.
minimal. Just make it happen. And oftentimes, what is it? We're the product of we're successful, or no, we're not given enough to succeed, but we do it anyway.
Yeah.
So, we're expected to do it next time with even less.
Yeah. Yeah.
I forget the saying that goes along with it, but yeah, you got to adapt to whatever you have. If you've got a tuna can and a shoelace, you better be expected to make Baghdad fall.
Yeah.
So,
Whatever it is.
what is the one moment of your career that you wish you could go back and relive or redo?
Relive. Hmm. I guess being a team sergeant, I'd relive that again. I try not to get shot the second time around, but you know, yeah, that's what I would do. I'd go back and be a team sergeant again. I wouldn't. I still do the same thing. I'd still fight out into that close ambush and get that dude. Still land in the middle of a nasty firefight and Mi-17 helicopters. When I got shot in the hand, it was like in the middle of the day, and Mi-17 helicopters, and what we already knew was a shit situation. I'd do it again. I mean, it seemed like a bad. I was like, man, this is not a smart decision to make. But if we don't do this, like it's gonna be catastrophic to the entire campaign. And the battalion commander was there. He's like, it's just like your guys' choice. I'm like, this is gonna be real shitty, but we're gonna do it. We knew it was gonna be real shitty as Buck touchdown and bullet holes started coming through the skin of the helicopter. I'm on the horn with the birds, which I should have been because the JTAC was sitting next to me. I'm like, why are the Apaches on my freak? Turns out they were on the wrong HLZ. So they told me already before. I was like, well, first of all, why are they talking to me? But they told me the HLZ was clean. And I was like, when I got out, I'm like, oh, there's no fucking helicopters. Yeah, they're on the wrong HLZ. We're getting our asses kicked. Yeah, but I'd still do it again. I'd relive all that again. I mean, it's exciting at least.
Yeah. That's the pinnacle of being an SF guy, is the team sergeant position.
Right. Yeah, it's good. It's great, but yeah, it is exhausting. It's funny as everybody I've talked to, warned like, yeah, you're right. For my own mental health and my family, I gotta do something else.
That's all right. What's the best piece of advice that you received during your career?
During my career, I'm not sure when this was told to me. I mean, I've seen it a lot in books recently, but somebody told me that I talk too much and I need to shut up and listen more. And when I started doing that, and then the way it's framed now is if you can spend more time actually being interested in people and less time trying to be interesting, you have a much bigger impact on others. That's real. Like we love to transmit, we love to talk and hear about ourselves, but the minute you start just really listening to people and start asking better questions, and you can really you learn more yourself, but then you can make better decisions. You can have bigger impacts on people. So if I could go back in time and start doing that, I would. But yeah, I don't remember when I first heard it in a completely different phrasing, where it's basically, hey, you need to shut the fuck up and listen more. And then as a I keep hearing it in books and people talking, we're like, oh yeah, be more interesting or more interested and less trying to be interesting, and that's been really powerful. So I think that's probably the single biggest piece, because one of my tendencies with communication is like to transmit. But really, I just need to shut up and listen more. My old counseling sessions used to be me running my mouth for an hour and a half with this detailed 3-page long paper, and it's dumb. It's not. I'm just because you're good at talking doesn't mean you're just good at talking. Doesn't mean you're good at communicating. The reality is I should have spent about 20. Like, I should have just started asking a lot of questions to be more understanding of everything, and spent about 20% of that time talking.
Shut up and listen.
Shut up and
I like it.
listen. It works.
What were you afraid of then, and what are you afraid of now?
Oddly enough, I was on a mountain team, and I'm deathly afraid of heights. Right, so that's never changed. I've done a lot of lying to God on the side of a mountain where I get on routes like way above my skill level. I'm like, oh my God, let me survive this, and stop masturbating, whatever. Right? And then of course, I don't do anything. I promise. But then, um, and the one thing we
So
all
that's
run,
pretty specific.
the one thing we all run into, if you've been through the Q course in the selection specifically, is spiders at face level in the dark. Man, I
Oh
don't
my
care
God.
how badass you think you are. The minute that massive thing hits you, and it's
Those two
somewhere,
trees.
you're
Those
screaming.
two trees. There's always a
Yeah.
spider in between those
And
two
you hit
trees.
him at night, and you're trying to holler. You're like, ah! You're like, yeah, that's always terrifying. I have dreams about it sometimes. I don't care who you are, how bad you. Because then when you that spider's somewhere too, but you got to keep moving, and you're just like, oh my God, it's somewhere. Yeah, that's it. So still afraid of those two things now. Always have been. Probably always will be.
All right. I really enjoyed our conversation. I do have a bonus question.
All right, let's get it.
You got 3 Valorous Awards, a Silver Star, a Bronze Star with a V, and an Arcom with a V. In your mind, do you think you did anything special that another Green Beret wouldn't have done in that situation?
I think that goes back to when we were talking about. It all comes back to luck and timing, right? I think that those are the right decisions at the time. I mean, the Archon with V, that was during California, man. Like the whole team deserved. I thought, like, I saw people doing some crazy valorous shit, right? And it's like, wow, man, like it's above anything I've done. They got their award downgraded or something. Or like when I got shot in the hand, man, I watched some of my guys do like I was having to hold them back. Like, hey, I understand you want to assault into these positions. Wait till they see 130 gets overhead, and I get some fires here, and then you can assault in there. Like, there's video cam footage of these guys just of course you're scared, but moving through that and having their valor awards downgraded, right? It's like, and those just watching people do things that are way above anything I've ever done. So I just think that it comes down to timing, right? I don't think I did anything there where it was like, oh man, like I'm this freaking machine. Even overcoming, like, I just had my 34th surgery. I'm training up just for this 50K. It's like, it's not because I'm some superhuman. It's because I train intelligently. But the reason I train intelligently is because I've learned how to do all that from really smart experts, right? It's from other people. The same thing there. Like, those Valor awards do to other people. They're not due to me. Like, if you can literally, the helmet cam footage of me getting shot in the back and everything is just go to Chuck Ritter YouTube and you can watch the whole thing, but you can see what my medic is doing. And like that had to I was dealing with me being catastrophically wounded, but what they did after to get me to the HLs, they didn't fight hours, man, like fighting street to street, killing a ton of people with gunships and everything else. And what they had to do to get out of there afterwards, like, man, those dudes should have all had silver stars, but they don't have any. But it's crazy shit. Like, so no, I don't, am I deserving of them? I probably wouldn't have written myself up for those awards. Because I don't think I didn't think any that other people weren't doing, and just happened to be. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I was written up as a silver star. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
And here we are.
Here we are.
Chuck, you got anything for me?
Nah, man, just keep doing what you're doing with this, man. Don't, you know, podcasts are a pain in the ass. As somebody, produced and hosted one for a while and have another one. And I mean, the reality is, man, if you're putting out quality content, which you are, it's going to get to where you want it to be. It's just, I tell everybody, like, podcasts aren't like social media. Like, they don't blow up like that. And it can be a pain in the ass, but you keep finding the right people, man, and telling the right stories. That's all that matters. And you're not trying to be a grifter. So that's good. So, just keep being a badass. Thank you for what you do with this, man. And, it is important people tell their stories. Like, you talk about the silent professionals, and I've had people like, oh, look at you, you're trying to be an influencer. You're like, no, you're right. Everybody should be trying to influence as many people as they possibly can every day in a positive way. Like, and if you have a problem with that, then maybe you need to reevaluate what you're doing, right? Like, everybody should be trying to be a positive influencer on everything around them at all times. And then, like, well, back in my day, like, shut the fuck up back in your day. You know why?
Shut the fuck up.
You know why I came and did half the stuff is because I picked up some badass books about Mac v. Sog and Green Berets in Vietnam that inspired me, like, to come do this kind of stuff, right? Like, people writing books like silent professional is not the quiet professional. And as long as you're not out there like just spewing bullshit and doing it for the wrong reasons, then what is your problem with it, right? Like, maybe that's a you problem that you need to reevaluate or evaluate if you're having an issue with somebody trying to do good or trying to make an impact in the world. What is the issue there? In this day and age, like, podcasts are where it's at. There's a reason why Trump got elected. And one of those reasons was he spent a lot of time on podcasts, which the other side didn't do, right? This is the new media. And even for the military, like, oh, we want to get away from this. Like, if the military wants to get away from how people communicate these days, which is social media and podcasts, and they want to give that key terrain to the enemy, they can't be pissed when the enemy's on that key terrain putting out bullshit messaging, right? Like, well, you willfully gave that key terrain up. So don't be mad that other people have it, right? So, like, this is key terrain now for communication. You're in here dominating that so you can tell positive messages, good messages, get people stories told. And that's what it's about, man. It's selfish for you because you enjoy doing it and it gives you that fulfillment, but it's selfless because it provides that service to everybody else. All right. So it's good. It's a mix of both worlds.
Two sides to the same coin.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But do the best we can and try and be, what's the word? Authentic in the process. Not be a douchebag, I guess.
No, just don't be a douchebag. Speak of human beings, man. That's it.
There's enough of them out there.
Yeah.
Well, bye, everybody.